I will call the meeting to order. It's a regular council meeting. Thank you all for coming. I feel a little lightheaded tonight, and I'll explain why. The Terry Fox Run, the first ever in Coquitlam's history, the Coquitlam Terry Fox Run, was on Sunday, and we had an absolutely wonderful time. I want to acknowledge all of the volunteers that put on an excellent event. Absolutely without no criticism at all. It was just an amazing event, but also an event that was created in relatively short time frame. It was about 2 months from the decision when the Terry Fox Foundation came to us and asked if they could have one on the 30th anniversary, and to that point where we were running a run. And I want to thank as well, we had hundreds of people come out to Blue Mountain Park in the rain and on a pretty wet day. And one of the challenges that they put to me was, is it possible that I'd put my hair on the line and allow it to be cut off in honor of the pretty successful event? And I did agree to that. I didn't agree to allowing Councillor Robinson to be the one that would cut it off. Councillor Robinson had way too much fun buzzing this. My wife says I didn't have much before, so it's not really that big of a change. But I do want to thank those that participated, those that helped organize, and all of our community for all of the support they've given to the Terry Fox Foundation. We've always been proud to support the hometown run next door, and to have our own run now is absolutely outstanding, and I certainly want to acknowledge all of those, including an excellent chair by Councillor Robinson. I also want to mention that on Thursday night, Council hosted a town hall meeting. These are regular meetings that Council has in the community to find out more about the community's feelings on a number of things. Again, I think about 60 people came out and offered opinions. We also had a briefing on the budgetary process as it currently sits, and got some input on a number of budgetary items as well. And I want to acknowledge on behalf of Council all those that came out to present, to listen, to see the challenging decisions before Council. Because, and I had some slight closing remarks there. I'll repeat them a little bit here, because we heard from people that were asking us for water meters, for buses in Burke Mountain, for no parking signs, curbs and sidewalks, for a skateboard park in Millardville, for a revitalization of McAlpine Park, for increased parking, for increased signage, for more parks, for Riverview lands, for more tennis courts, a covered tennis court and racquetball court, more rental housing, a number of other things. And of course, the last item, of course, they also asked for lower taxes. All of which is an enormous, they're in conflict. So over the next couple of months, Council will be completing its budgetary process for 2011. We'll be putting our minds to those issues. They're tough choices and tough decisions, and I know that Council joins me in thanking all those that participated so far and those that will offer their opinions and comments in the future. Now, I'll open with a comment about, we have 4 presentations. Normally we limit it to 3, but we have a special presentation this time that came about because of our request as a council for some further information, and I'm going to ask the clerk to begin the process.
Thank you, Your Worship. First item is our first presentation. I'd like to invite Maxine Wilson to come forward, and this is about commemoration of service to the community.
Good evening, Maxine.
Good evening.
I want to begin with a little bit of information. There's a chain of office here. This is the chain of office. I don't wear it very often because it's quite heavy, for one thing. At the pivot here is the mayor of the day. But the chain of office begins with R.B. Kelly. R.B. Kelly was mayor from 1891, the beginning of our city. A lot of people thought it was Lou, but no, it was R.B. Kelly. It says right here. Lou's name is on here, though. Lou's up here, Louis Sikora, from 1983 to 1998. time. And several away from that is Maxine Wilson, from 2005 to 2008. My name will eventually appear here. That process will continue through the history, and this really is a commemoration of the history of this community, a history of this council, and a history of this chair in this office. And I'm here today to acknowledge, this is a tradition on Coquitlam City Council, we acknowledge council members who've left, and we normally do it about 18 months from the time they left. There was a by-election that confused matters this spring, so it was put off until fall. And so it's my honor now, as I said, the mayor's name fits here in the larger pivot, and then it gets handed off to fit as a medallion. And I'm here to present a medallion today. Mayor Wilson served many years on the school board, many years at the PAC level before that, and then on council from 1998 until 2008. The last 3 of those years as mayor. And it's my deep honor to be able to acknowledge that service to our community, that time spent. I know the long hours. We're about to have one of the agendas that you undoubtedly remember, the 4-inch ones. And it's my honor then to present to you this acknowledgement of your time on council.
Oh, thank you. It's no longer a watch. No, so this, I think, is the first time it's a medallion, so that's neat.
My understanding is that the medallion is maybe not presented in the public form, but is a typical presentation to
Oh,
outgoing
very
members.
good.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. And I just have a few words, if that's all right.
Certainly.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say tonight that Coquitlam is a very special place for Gordon, my husband, and me. It has been our home for the past 37 years. We were a young couple who met and married in Vancouver. As time passed, we decided to have a family. We wanted to find a community which would be the home where we raised this family. There were several reasons why we chose Coquitlam. The beautiful parks and forested areas, the school district that had a reputation which was second to none, and the strong sense of community and connectedness of people in the city. There is a heritage here of people contributing to community. I grew up in a home where my parents felt it was their duty to volunteer. They retired to Coquitlam in 1974 to be near us, and right away got involved volunteering for the next 20-plus years. They made many friends and were never lonely. That's what people of their generation did. That's what made Coquitlam such a strong community. My message tonight and what I wanted to say is to the young people in our community. Volunteer. Not because you want a reference letter, not because it looks good on a resume, but because you want to make a difference. It's person by person that we build strong community where people care for and support each other. I've come full circle in Coquitlam. As a young stay-at-home mother, I was volunteering in a variety of ways. A well-respected school trustee, Larry Nelson, made the decision not to run in the next election. He approached me to run for school board. At that point in my life, I had never even considered running for political office. Larry convinced me to give it a try. The rest is history. 20 years in elected office. As I said, I've come full circle. I'm volunteering a lot again and feel truly blessed to be part of our wonderful city. You, as our elected representatives, are stewards, helping Coquitlam residents build a strong community for our children and grandchildren. I wish you well in that task. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maxine.
Item 2 is our second presentation. It's the Tzu Chi Foundation of Canada. It's about their disaster relief efforts for Haiti. I'd like to invite them to come forward to the podium, and I have a handout for council which I will distribute shortly, and we also have a screen.
So good evening, Honorable Mayor Stewart and councillors. Well, before the presentations, I would like to apologize for the switching of the presentations, because instead of showing the Haiti relief effort, we have changed it to an environmental protection activities by the Tzu Chi Foundations in September, the 4th to 6th in downtown Vancouver for the Thailand Fest 2010. So why change? Well, because when we applied for the delegation to attend the June meetings to show our Haiti relief experience, and by that time we cannot fit in any time slot. So during the time, we have already moved on to our intermediate relief plan in Haiti. So we are reviewing plans on building conference school with the local missionaries. So since we are right now in the planning and progress stage, so a lot of things have to be finalized. So we feel that it might be better for us to present the progress in a later meetings in the coming months. So right now, I'd like to show you the presentations about the environmental conservation activities first.
Don't have sound from this.
I was there.
It can't. It's not hooked into the system from that speaker, and we had not had a chance to preview it before this evening, so.
Well, we're looking at some images of Gravelle Street, for example. I was down there during this event, and I've never seen Granville Street look cleaner. These volunteers went out, and not only did they man the garbage cans, as was shown there, and help people sort through it, but they also cleaned the street to the point where it was a different city from my perspective. And here they're sorting through, and I got to watch this sorting process, and it was amazing. No, it was absolutely amazing, and I take my hat off, and I know Council joins in congratulating you for the work you do, but that particular effort was amazing. So.
Well, from our Haiti experience, we understand that a lot of disasters, they are coming from nature. Like recently, we have these gloomy and windy, rainy days. We suffer from it to a likely extent compared to the natural disasters the world have, like Pakistan, Chile, and China. So environmental issue is very important in our daily life right now. So instead of just stick with a concept, we would like to move on to actions. The 2010 marks the 20th anniversary for our CWOCP Foundation. So locally, we would like to devote our efforts in every single aspect, from education to real actions. So the Thailand Fest is the first time we incorporate with the Metro Vancouver to devote it in large-scale events. Our main goal is to divert the waste from the landfill. We hopefully 80%. For this event, we have a final numbers. It's close to 70%. So we deem it as quite a successful trial and effort. As we know that in Tri-City, the city of Coquitlam and the city of Moody, they have already had the policy of recycling the compost. But I think City Coquitlam still have to consider about that issue, right?
Actually, we don't have to consider that starting in a few weeks. Mr. Suzak?
Sorry, Your Worship, I did not hear the comment.
Relates to the diversion of kitchen waste into the
kitchen waste
compost.
Yes, it's starting in about 2 weeks. It's definitely coming in October.
Yeah, so we think, well, the at-home recycling is very important, and at the same time, we'd like to extend the at-home recycling to large-scale events, and that's what our long-term goals. And we are looking forward to participate in all kinds of activities that can save the environment, and that's our main message today. Thank you. Oh, unfortunately, we have a DVD that is unable to play, but we have hard copies of handouts. About that part is about the recycling water bottle into shirts that our mayor is wearing. So it's 12 plastic bottles he is actually wearing. So we would like to take this opportunity to hand out these eco-friendly t-shirts to our councillors to explore. And when you wear it on yourself, please remember you're wearing 12 recycling bottles. I hope that reminds you to help us to protect the environment. Thank you.
Councillor Sikora is hoping that not all of them were made with only 12, he says. Well, I do want to, again, applaud the CWOCP, the CWOCP Foundation. It does tremendous work here in our community. Recently, when Princess Gate had a fire, and there were hundreds of people displaced, the first group I met the next morning at the meeting of all of the displaced residents was CWOCP. They continue to do incredible work in our community. They do wonderful work in Haiti and abroad, and I know that some of the volunteers from here in Coquitlam have been to Haiti a number of times. And this effort that was demonstrated at the Taiwanese Cultural Festival was remarkable, and I wanted to make sure that Council got to see this. I thank you so much for bringing it to us here and showing it to our audience at home as well. The work that can be done when a committed group of individuals takes on a challenge. I applaud you and I thank you very much.
Just a few more words. For this technology, we use the recycling bottle, actually manufacture eco-friendly blankets that are distributed to the disastrous relief area. So that's a reminder of it. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Sikora has indicated he would like to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The one thing about these shirts, they're certainly a nice collar and a very high quality here. It's really a nice cloth, and I believe that Mayor Stewart said that his shirt took 6 bottles to make.
No, 12.
12? I guess mine probably is about 24, is it? But it's very, very nice. Thank you very much.
They certainly are a very soft and wonderful pad. I've seen the blankets that are also made and the aprons and various other things that I think will go a long way to it's technologies like that that I take my hat off to. And certainly watching you go through that much garbage during that festival was a remarkable thing to see, that we can sort through our garbage, reduce it to the stuff that must be thrown out, and a whole bunch of things that we can make better use of. And I thank you very much for teaching us all about diversion. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 3, I'd like to invite Dr. Scott McAlpine to come forward. He's the president of Douglas College, and he's here to present about their strategic plan.
Thank you so much. Your Worship, Council, staff, members of the community, my purpose today is a little bit of shameless self-promotion, as well as to inform you about the Douglas College strategic plan. As you're aware, about a year ago, we engaged in community consultation, and this is the accountability back to the community on the strategic plan. You might wonder what that is. That's our first graduate of Douglas College in June 1972, the very first graduate. I'm not sure I remember skirts that short, but in any event, certainly a very interesting photo. Turning to the next slide, please. Our region, as you're all aware, is getting older as well as much more multicultural. Post-secondary educational institutions have a lot of work to do in order to fill the looming skills shortage in an emerging knowledge-based economy. A recent report by Rick Miner and Associates outlines jobs without people and people without jobs. Without action, what Rick Miner claims is that we are going to be suffering both a skills shortage as well as high unemployment. This is a role and a way in which colleges need to, or something that colleges need to look at and seriously consider. Over the next several months, or over the past several months, I'm sorry, as well as the next several months, I'm sure, we've held frank discussions with our community leaders, with our students, with employees about the future of education at Douglas College. We asked everyone the same basic 3 questions. What are we doing well? What do we need to improve? And how can we do a better job of meeting the needs of the people of this region? What emerged is a strategic plan that represents a modern vision for BC's largest and most progressive college. We outlined a number of strategic themes. They're on the screen. Seamless learner pathways is the key to the whole document. And by a learner pathway, what we mean is the route that individuals take to their post-secondary education and training needs. We also outlined superior teaching quality. Internationalization is also a key feature. Experiential learning, student-employee engagement, social and environmental responsibility. Our outlook is increasingly international. That means we will be welcoming more international students to Douglas College. We have a record number of international students this year, in fact. We'll be offering more overseas learning opportunities for domestic students and more overseas teaching opportunities for our faculty. And we will be embedding a global perspective into all of our programs and courses wherever possible. A key priority is, of course, to open up learner pathways. This means more entry points to Douglas College, more options for students at the college, and more exit points to go to other top universities such as Simon Fraser University, UBC, University of Toronto, and so on. At the same time, we are also going to be offering more custom learning opportunities to meet the diverse needs of new Canadians and older learners attempting to change their career paths. Underlying all of this is a huge commitment to quality. Quality teaching and a quality learning environment that is second to none, at least in British Columbia. We offer and will continue to offer a learning environment that is professional, friendly, respectful, and supportive. I also want to emphasize our commitment to maintaining and building our rich connections to the communities that we serve. We are a college with a community mandate. If we are not serving the community well, we are not serving our students. If we are not serving our community well, in short, we are not doing our job. So moving forward, I believe that our biggest advantage will be the incredible diversity of our region and of our campus community. I'm sure you would all be hard-pressed to find a more diverse college or university anywhere in Canada. That diversity represents a multiplicity of perspectives. We'll need to hear and consider all of those perspectives as we adapt to meet the changing needs of the communities we serve. That includes all of you, and I invite you to be part of the discussion and part of the future of Douglas College. Thank you for a great 40 years in the communities that we serve. We're here to serve for the next 40 and beyond. I'll take your questions. I know you have a huge agenda in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. McAlpine. That's true, we do. It's the first meeting of the fall season, and it's a long agenda. Are there any council members that have any questions? The comment that you've made before, perhaps the most diverse university or college in Canada, I have to agree. I've walked the halls of that, and it certainly echoes our community, which is a very diverse community. We thank you for all the work you do in our community.
And thank you for your input on the plan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next presentation 4, is by Mr. Maurice Gravelle, who's our General Manager of Strategic Initiatives, and he's here to speak on major facilities construction progress update. It relates to item 21 in the agenda.
Now, this is the item that would have normally been bumped to the next meeting, but this was asked for by council, and we thank you very much for coming out to give us your report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The purpose of this presentation tonight is just to update council with the progress of our new Poirier Sport and Leisure Complex and also the Town Centre Fire Hall. This is report number 6 and a series of reports to council reporting on these projects. So the first project we'll start with is the Poirier Sport and Leisure Complex. Here's the artist rendering of what was then called the Coquitlam Sports Centre, November 2008. This rendering's done, so it gave us an idea of what we thought this facility was going to look like. When I reported out last time in July, we had talked about everything that had been accomplished basically up into the first phase of the major openings, and that included the new curling rink and the sheets of ice that you see here. And this is used for curling, of course, in the wintertime, and is also used by the Coquitlam Figure Skating Club in the summer months. Immediately beside that curling rink is the recreational ice rink. This is viewing towards the lobby, and this is used primarily for open skating, minor hockey, and the like. And finally, right beside this is our new renovated arena. This arena is basically, at one time it was a semi-bowl, and what we did was knock out the wooden wall at the end, and we created a 360-degree bowl with all new seating and upgrading for earthquake protection, etc. And it's become a very, very beautiful facility, as you can see, and it was used by the Adanacs this summer for the major lacrosse tournament that was in town in the Minto Cup, and now it will be starting to be used for the Coquitlam Express, and their first game is coming up on the 24th of September. And the nice thing about these three facilities is the lighting that's in there. We can control the lighting to 3 levels, very low when we're just doing maintenance, mid-level, which is normal use, and we can have it on a high level for television coverage. So we have the ability to save energy by having those 3 levels of lighting in these 3 various ice sheets. Moving towards the north, here's a picture looking from the second floor lobby just by the new catering facilities, and we're looking down into the main floor and looking into where we have a fenced off here until we can complete our construction on the main floor, the new reception area. And above this area is a very large skylight, and what that does is bring a lot of natural light into this main hallway, during the day, which is a very positive attribute. If we look at some of the construction pictures, here's the main reception area under construction about a month ago. Main reception, this is going to be one-stop shopping. It's behind, there's doors that come in for nighttime security, but these doors, folding doors, are rolled out. And when you come into the facility now, you'll come into one-stop shopping, so you'll get your tickets for the pool or tickets for ice skating or whatever you want to do. If there is a paid event, say for the Junior B hockey, then you will go in through the ticket gate at the other side and go in a separate entrance. But for all our general purposes, such as general pool admissions and the like, you'll come in through this central main reception area. Here's a picture as the reception area is being completed. It's taken about a month ago. And looking from the reception area towards the front of the building where the ticket booth will be. This is the new skate shop lobby in the arena. It's right by the renovated arena, just down a short flight of stairs, and very bright, very open, much better than it was before when we had the old arena. Just to show you a good picture of how much equipment we've been working here in August and in September trying to bring the whole site together. It gives a good picture of just how much equipment was on site and the manpower required to get to the project to the final completion in September. Here's a picture of the reception and Sport Hall of Fame construction completing off the roof and the side panels. Getting ready to pour concrete for the arena entrance and the ticket window plaza, which is immediately to the on the right-hand side of the slide. Here's a picture showing the ticket booth in the center and the entrance to the left of that, which you'll enter in if you're going to see a paid a hockey game or a lacrosse game, etc. Now, one of the things that we did add to the scope of the work was the reconstruction of Poirier Street. Poirier Street was in very poor condition, and there was no funding identified for 5 years, and we received council approval. We totally reconstructed the road, put new curb and gutter in, all new concrete sidewalks. We cleaned up the boulevard. There was a lot of shrubs and bush that were not well maintained, and it was kind of hiding and not very nice, so we cleaned it up, opened it up, make it a much more friendlier and green environment, as well as we've did some improvements to the bus space so the buses can actually pull off and get outside of the road so traffic can continue when they're parked in those bus bays, continue on and get around those vehicles. Here's a picture of Poirier Street from again on top of the pool looking towards the south, towards the library. Now, this is a picture of the Poirier Street crosswalk before we reconstructed the road, and as you can see, the road was in pretty poor condition, and the crosswalk was even in worse condition. And one of the things we wanted to do was to highlight the crosswalk and make it better, more visible, and more durable. And here's a picture of the new crosswalk. We put it's stamped concrete, and so basically structurally it's much harder. You won't get the movement with the interlocking bricks, and we actually put color into the mix too. So as the tires wear over it, it'll still maintain its color, and we don't have to come back and repaint it. So from an operational point of view, that should hopefully reduce our operation for crosswalks when you have this amount of traffic going by, and especially heavy trucks and buses and the like. Here's a picture in the north end of the parking lot. We just completed the paving a few weeks ago, and we had an existing hedge. There's a laneway that runs parallel to that, and the existing hedge was in very, very poor condition. A lot of those hedges were dying, so we basically re-landscaped the whole site right over to the library. So we completed the hedge to give that interface and that barrier between the laneway. And as I said, there was a hedge there before, but it was in very poor condition, and we thought we should be proactive and have it done now and completed so we have all new landscaping around the facility. Here's a picture of in the parking lot on the north side, and you can see in the background they're still finishing that side of the building. But what is important to note here is the bioswale that we created. We created quite a wide area, and what that does is it gives a larger cooling area. If you have narrow planting areas, the sun and the pavement, it gets pretty hot, and plants really struggle. So with a wider area and all the drainage coming into there, the water can seep when it rains into that bioswale, and eventually the overload will go into our storm sewer system. So we're providing some delay in our some detention pond is also, as well as having a better quality entering into our storm sewer system. And here's the actual picture of the Poirier Sport and Leisure Complex as of just a few days ago. And as you can see, its parking lot is nearing completion. We're just about done. This is a interesting slide. On the top part of the slide is our artist rendering, and that was the one you saw at the beginning of the presentation in November 2008. And the bottom is September 2010, just taken a couple of days ago. So the two look very close in terms of appearance from the street. So with all this, we have official opening ceremonies are now being planned for October 30th, which council will be involved in. It will be a really exciting time for the city as we open up this new facility, which is just an amazing facility. In terms of the overall project, the project will be completed approximately 10 months of schedule, and we're projecting a $4 million surplus, or could even be more depending on our final bills. So we'll be well within our budget on this project. In terms of in October, we'll be working on all the minor deficiencies on the project, making sure that everything's ready for our official opening on October 30th. Included in the facility is a Sports Hall of Fame, and that will develop over time. And during the month of November, they will be bringing in some more items into the facility, and they hope to have, or they will be having an official opening ceremony later on in November. At the Sports Hall of Fame, which is part of the main reception area into the new facility. That concludes my presentation on the first part of the project. I will continue on unless council has any questions.
Actually, I do have one. I wonder if you could elaborate for just a very short, maybe 1 minute. I know that for example, we reused glulam beams from the old pool, that there's a system of retention or recapture of some of the waste heat from the generation of ice to use on other buildings in the site. And I know there's some people in the audience that are quite keenly interested in some of those environmental aspects of this project.
Yes, we do have a system that is type of geothermal system, and it does exactly what you said, Mr. Mayor, and that's recovery energy and turning heat back into the facility. And that system we believe will considerably reduce the operating costs of the new facility, as well as that system's tied into the library as well. So we have some projections, and what we need to do is monitor our use once we get fully up and running and just see whether we meet our projections for significant energy savings. But initial results are looking very favorable in that regard. And this is another way that we've worked on this project to reduce our carbon footprint and be better partners in the environment.
Okay. Any other? Okay.
Better stewards of the environment.
Perfect.
Thank you.
On to the fire.
The second project is the Town Center Fire Hall. This is just a schematic. The gray area shown on the reference plan is the existing building, and the red area is the new facility that's currently under construction. So the boardroom we're looking on the second. This is on the second floor boardroom. You can see the framing, steel studs going in and looking towards the south. On the second floor, this is the windows that are facing there, and we're looking towards Pine Tree Street. You see some of the main floor framing ongoing on the main floor, and the drywall as well. Here's the south side view, the main entrance and parking lot. And this is if you were standing on Pineview Way. This is what you would see, and this is where the front entrance of the building will be, the parking and main entrance into the facility. A view of the north side from the new construction, as well as looking at the east side. And there's a lot of window glazing that's used in this design to give a very bright and open environment for the staff that will be working in the facility. Right now, the Town Center Fire Hall, the project is scheduled for completion in December of this year, so we're right on track. The budget is, we're running right on budget. We anticipate using most, if not all, our contingency, so we believe we'll come in very close to our budget number. The public safety group, who are in lease facilities, will be moving into this facility in December, so we will no longer have to lease the space for that group starting in the new year. And basically, we hope to have a grand opening ceremony sometime in December for this facility, for the Town Center Fire Hall. So that concludes my slide presentation today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Outstanding. 10 months ahead of schedule. That's great for the sports center. We're looking forward to the opening of that, the grand opening of all of the components of that building. Good stuff.
Your Worship, I'd like to suggest at this time, because we've just received the presentation related to item 21, perhaps it would be Council's wish to consider item 21 at this time.
Absolutely. Item 21 is receipt of the report we've just received. Moved by Councillor Lynch, seconded by Councillor Reamer. Discussion, all in favor, opposed, carried unanimously.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 5 is the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, July 19th. The recommendation is to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Robinson. All in favor, opposed, carried.
Item 6 is the minutes of the public hearing held Monday, July 26th, and the recommendation is to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, seconded by Councillor Sikora. All in favor, opposed, carried.
Item 7 is the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, July 26th, with a recommendation to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Lynch. All in favor, opposed, carried.
Item 8 is the minutes of the public hearing held Monday, September 13th, with a recommendation to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. All in favor, opposed, carried.
Item 9 is the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, September 13th, with a recommendation to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Sikora, seconded by Councillor Lynch. All in favor, opposed, carried unanimously.
Your Worship, item 10 is the first of two delegations related to permissive tax exemptions. I'd like to invite the Simon Fraser Society for Community Living to come forward at this time.
Good evening, Mayor Stewart and councillors. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm here representing the Simon Fraser Society for Community Living. My name is Kathy Anthony, and I am Acting Director of Planning and Support for the Society. With me are two other colleagues, Tim Letterman and Dave Russell, who are also employed with the Society. The Simon Fraser Society is a nonprofit society that is in Coquitlam, and we work in supporting children and youth with extra support needs, adult individuals with intellectual disabilities and their families. And our society has a long and proud history. It actually formed in 1954, and that was really the work of parent pioneers who were looking for something better in life for their sons and daughters with disabilities. Today, our services and supports reach broadly, and they serve people of all ages from birth to their senior years. And we cover the communities of Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Port Moody, Belcarra, and Moore, New Westminster. What I've handed out is our 2010 annual report for you to have more information about our society. We're proud of the work that we do and the contribution that we make to our communities and the people that we support. We believe that both the Simon Fraser Society and the people we walk with in life and support add richness to our communities and also to the hearts of our fellow community members. The Simon Fraser Society and our Coquitlam residents who live in our homes that we operate in Coquitlam area are consumers, they are involved in local businesses, they are active participants in community life, and are well embraced in community as community members and valued community members. We're a large employer, and live in Coquitlam, and many of the employees that we have at the Society live in Coquitlam as well, and we're proud of our city. We make this application to you for consideration as a result of ongoing efforts to seek options of support to address financial needs. Most of the services that we provide come from government funding from various ministries, Ministry of Children and Family Development, Community Living British Columbia. But probably as we all know and many experience, increasing funding constraints are really becoming quite challenging, and therefore our agency faces what we believe will be funding reductions coming more and more this way. But regardless of the pressures, we remain deeply committed to the role and responsibility and the privilege that we have of supporting people in our community, working with families and their sons and daughters. If this application is approved, we would be really appreciative of the financial support that that would offer, supporting us in our capacity to continue our work. We have had the benefit and the privilege from both Port Moody and New Westminster for the support of similar circumstances with taxes for the properties that we own there. As I've said, we pride ourselves, and really truly pride ourselves, around the positive relationships and partnerships that we have in community. And we join with many to try to build better communities for people and to create caring communities and be responsible citizens. One example of one of our partnerships is with the City of Coquitlam, and that's with the Leisure and Parks Department. Every summer, and that probably goes on for the last 12, 15 years, that at the Society we hire summer students, and we place summer students with your staff in the Parks and Leisure summer programs. They work alongside in a partnership with the program leaders, supporting the children and youth that attend that have disabilities and require support to attend. So we've been really very pleased and very happy that we have the partnership with Coquitlam Parks and Rec, and that children and youth do have the opportunity to attend with their peers. Specific to speaking to our request tonight, what it relates to is properties owned by the Simon Fraser Society in Coquitlam. We have our Blue Mountain office, which is a multi-purpose building located on the corner of Blue Mountain and Lougheed. It provides space for our society administration, for our family and children's services and adult service programming. We have space for community and partner groups and for educational and training venues. It's a gathering place for social opportunities, and we provide family support and networking groups that take place at this site as well. That's where our board and our committee meetings and community meetings take place. The other addresses that are listed on our application, they're properties that are homes owned by the Simon Fraser Society. And while these are staffed by the Society, staffed homes, we see them as homes and homes for community residents. These are people with disabilities that we support to live in those homes. This is a focus of our work and has come from the dreams of families and individuals, often dreams that we all take for granted, but that's to live in a home, in a neighborhood, in a community, as a community member. Many of these individuals have lived in these homes as family units for many years. We have 9 homes that we're talking about, and they're supporting 22 individuals to live in these homes. There's different names that we might call these homes: group homes, semi-independent residential homes. Really what those names represent is the hours of funding or staffing that go into the homes to support people to live in their home community. So 24/7 staffing, and some people might not require quite as much as 24/7, but they require staff support to allow them to be good neighbors and to live in their community and to be successful living in their homes. So regardless of the names, we just call them homes, and the people who live there call them their homes. We embrace the values of being good neighbors, valued community citizens, and respected contributing members of the community. We work to enrich the communities and the neighborhoods, to build positive relationships and connections with other Coquitlam residences. And we know that we bring a gift and a richness to neighborhoods, and that's the richness of diversity and opportunity to come to know other human beings in a way of just being neighbors together. We take pride in our homes, as do the people that live there, and we maintain them well, and we maintain our responsibility being good citizens and good neighbors. And so we want to thank you for your consideration and supporting us in this application, and in our efforts of ensuring that our properties can remain more than buildings on land, but homes for individuals to enjoy and celebrate their status as community members. Again, thank you for your time tonight and considering our application. And I think in closing, I do just want to appreciate and recognize the city of Coquitlam, because I think that I am proud to live in Coquitlam. I am proud that we have people living in Coquitlam. And I think we've done a lot to create very caring, welcoming communities. So thank you.
Your Worship, we have...
Sorry, I've got 3 questions from council members. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the building at Blue Mountain and Lougheed, of which I know, it's 2 or 3 stories.
Yes, it is. Kind of an ugly one on the corner.
I don't think it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute. It's a funny location, but it's kind of cute. You're asking for a tax exemption for the whole building, or just the spaces that you occupy?
For that building. We occupy the whole building.
Do you own the whole
Yes,
building?
it is. Yes. The Simon Fraser Society owns that building.
So you want a tax exemption for that building and 9 homes
Yes.
in Coquitlam?
That's what we're requesting.
And that building is the main office for all of the 5 cities that you...
No, we also have a large office, an administrative building in New Westminster that also provides day programs and houses the New Westminster Children's Center, which is a new partnership multi-child serving agency that we developed in New Westminster.
Okay, so as I, along with everyone else here, is a taxpayer in the city of Coquitlam, if you are being funded already by tax dollars through the Ministry of Children and Family Development, and then you've got, I guess, Share as one of your partners, and United Way as one of your partners?
Yes, Share isn't a partner as a funder, but what we try to do is look at funding sources for programs that we run that are not funded by government. So the United Way, gaming, donations, those are all sources that we look to for funding.
But I guess because this is a wonderful organization, but I wonder, to me it's always downloading, because this is actually the province's bailiwick. So what you're doing, the province doesn't supply you with enough funding, is that it, to cover property taxes?
We're facing significant cuts coming down the road with especially our adult programs and the funding to run the adult programs.
So with that, you're asking the city to pick up what the province isn't giving you?
That's one yes, that's one perspective. I don't think I'm asking the city to pick up the government funding. What we were making a request for is the properties that people, especially the homes that people live in, those individuals can't claim, they can't have home ownership. Most of them live in poverty. And they, therefore, cannot claim property tax or disability tax, homeowner taxes in their homes. They also are people that would not be in a position, like many of us, to be able to rent an apartment or anything at a market rent.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's still the taxpayers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Lynch.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. So you have 10 properties in Coquitlam, and you have properties in New Westminster and Port Coquitlam as well?
That's right.
How many properties would you have in those other 2 communities?
In Port Coquitlam, we have one on Salisbury, where we run our day programs from. We have, in Port Moody, we have a home that houses 5 people. In New Westminster, we have the day programs and the New Westminster Children's Center that runs there. I'm just trying to think if there's other group homes that we have.
I'm actually just, I see that you get an exemption from the City of New Westminster. I was wondering how many properties that would be for.
That would be for the large building that we have, one property. We do not have any group homes in New Westminster, just the main building that we operate from with the day programs and administration and Children's Center. In Port Moody, we have 1 residence, and that's where we get an exemption.
In my report here on Port Moody, so I don't know about that. But so how long have you been getting the exemption from New Westminster?
Since 1955.
Okay. And I understand, have you applied for an exemption for your properties in Port Coquitlam?
We have an exemption. Have we applied for Port Coquitlam? No. Sorry, I'm having to go to my colleagues for more answers.
Well, and I guess that begs the question, so are you planning on applying to Port Coquitlam as well for your properties in that community for an exemption? Okay. And I guess my final question, because I'm not really clear on this, is how the people who are residences of these homes, how is it decided who goes where?
The people who are in our homes, they're referred to us from government office if they qualify for services. So Community Living British Columbia. Most of the people that are in our homes have been living there. For example, I'm thinking of a unit of 3 women that have lived together for 22 years. Most of them are long-standing residents. They've been with us between 5 and 30 years.
So I guess where I'm going with that is, so the 10 properties or the 9 homes that are in Coquitlam, they would be for residents from throughout BC, from other cities. They wouldn't be all, supporting families from Coquitlam.
Most of them are from Coquitlam. We have some families that actually, 25 years ago, and we're talking with some families now because they're involved in planning for their sons and daughters. They actually worked with the society on a housing committee to be able to look at choosing the properties for the sons and daughters and look at housing. They wanted their kids close to where they lived.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our second delegation, again related to permissive tax exemption, is the Canadian Ski Patrol System. I'd like to invite them to come forward at this time.
Welcome. The admonition I didn't give the previous speaker, it applies, of course, you got it in the letter that welcomed you to tonight's meeting. It's a 5-minute time limit, and we welcome you, and please proceed. Name and address for the record.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. I am Shannon Kupski, and my address is Unit 115, 15918, 26th Avenue in South Surrey, British Columbia. And my postal code is Victor 3 Sierra 5 Kilo 3. So again, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you today about our tax exemption. I have had the opportunity to go on the City of Coquitlam website and read a bunch of your bios. So while you may not know me, you definitely know what kind of a person I am, because I, like you, am very involved in giving back to not just one community, but many, as all of you are. So I'm not going to stand here and preach about how important it is to give back and how not-for-profits are, because you're there, you've all been there, and everybody in this room, I think, has been there for a very long time. I am currently actively involved in the Greater Vancouver Home Builders Association. I'm involved in the Builder Supplies Industries Association. I'm actively involved in Easter Seals and the 24-hour relay for the kids. I do work for the Red Cross, Foster Parents Plan. I'm part of Pivot Society. But today, I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Canadian Ski Patrol System, specifically the Greater Vancouver Zone. And so to give you a little bit of background of me and my involvement, I am a first aid instructor. I am the first aid officer, so I'm in charge of all recruits, new and returning, being educated and recertified every year for first aid, advanced first aid. I am on the division as a VP of Special Projects. I'm also on the board of directors for our division. And just so you know, there are 100 regular members every year that are a part of the patrol, and they are all just like us. They're very actively involved in numbers of organizations. So a little background, the Canadian Ski Patrol System is a national organization. We have over 4,500 members across Canada. The Greater Vancouver Zone specifically, in any given year, has at least 100 regular members. Locally in the community, our zone alone, we patrol and donate and volunteer over 14,000 hours. If you look at Stats Canada for Volunteer Canada, it says that 20% of all, well, it's the 80-20 rule. So 20% of all volunteer organizations, 20% put in the most hours, and we are definitely in a part of that 20% putting in the most volunteer hours every year. Our vision is that we want to be the premier safety and first aid organization serving the outdoor sports and recreation in Canada. And I really want to point out that this statement, it includes winter sports, but is not limited to. We are actually actively involved in the community year-round, providing first aid to numerous events in and around the Coquitlam area, and we are always open to more. And if by all means next year we're looking for first aid for volunteer at the Terry Fox event, we're available for that as well. And our supplies and everything are really close by. So I did go through your strategic plan quite significantly, thoroughly. I'm not going to stand here and regurgitate it to you. I'm sure you know it really well, but I would like to at least point out where we do fit into the Coquitlam strategic plan. So in your vision, it does state that you guys do value diversity and welcome everyone, and we thank you. And you do want your people to feel safe and secure, and we feel that we're a big part of that with our first aid training in and around the area. And you also said that you would like businesses to choose to locate, expand, and prosper here. And all residents of all ages, abilities have access to sports, leisure, and education, which is another big part of where we are. It does say that you are looking for partnerships and collaboration to provide a new model for the City of Coquitlam to work with community, educators, and businesses. And specifically when you get into strategic goal 3, obviously in increased activation, participation, and creativity, we are definitely involved in physical activity, recreation, leisure, and you guys are also fostering and encouraging creativity and innovation and education, which we believe that the Canadian Ski Patrol system falls into and all of our teaching and education. So recently, at the beginning of the summer, the Canadian Ski Patrol, we have been renting a facility in Coquitlam on Fawcett Road for some time. And through very aggressive fundraising and a lot of hard work by a lot of great volunteers, we were in a position to finally purchase and call Coquitlam our home. The reason we did so, at our AGM, we had a vote in order to purchase, and we went through a lot of the reasons that you guys all, it's part of your strategic plan about why we chose Coquitlam. And just to point out a couple, obviously the big significant part of it is that you guys have an amazing transit system and a central location to the Lower Mainland. And that's a big reason why we would like to be able to come back to this neighborhood easily. It says right here, strategic location with the region's transportation system and close proximity to Vancouver. As the Lower Mainland grows, and we foresee this, Coquitlam's location becomes more advantageous as the center of the Lower Mainland. And that is a big reason why we are becoming a part of this neighborhood today. So to not get into any more of that and just to do some simple math, I thought this would be way easier to point out the facts. I can point out intangible benefits of all kinds of things all day for you. I'm sure you can point them out yourselves. Word of mouth, the visibility that we give, the fact that you'll get national recognition in a location for a not-for-profit group. But let's talk about the tangible assets.
You're going to have to wind up pretty quickly.
What's that?
You're going to have to wind up pretty quickly.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Basically, we figure that each patroller, when they come to any one of our events or training, it's approximately $35 a day that they spend in this community. Not to mention that we do a big portion of our first aid training at the Henry Essent Young building at the Riverview Hospital, which costs us anywhere between $3,000 and $3,500 in rent each year for that facility. So adding up that plus the 14 days minimum that each patroller spends in this community, I calculate out that we add at least $52,000 to this neighborhood and to the community every year at a bare minimum. So we would definitely ask you today to consider, we believe that option number 1, unfortunately, is the only consideration that you can choose to include us in the tax exemption. But we would hope that showing you some statistics and some dollar value would actually add to that. And I can't even begin to include what the SFU does as well. And so we would ask you to include us and vote for option 1 today to include us in your tax exemptions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Sikora with a question.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. You're across Canada, so obviously you have offices in different cities of the province and across Canada. Am I correct?
The actual office, we only have one actual head office for the National Ski Patrol System, and that's in Ottawa. And otherwise, each zone is accountable for where they locate and where they are. I believe the only other one in the province is in the north, and it's actually, their office is run out of, it's a much smaller zone. There's a lot less patrollers, I believe under 30, and in the north, and I believe they actually run it out of a small area in a person's home.
Okay, and wherever you are, you pay rent, so, or taxes. Would this be the first one, if you were exempt from this one, would this be the first exemption across Canada as far as taxes are concerned?
That I'm not sure of.
Montreal gives you tax exemption?
I'm not sure what national does. Each zone is an entity of its own and accountable for its own financials. So it would be up to everybody individually. There's actually, we're also part of a division. There's like 7 zones in a division. The divisions there's.
So you don't know anything about the other zones, how whether they're tax exempt or not?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Reid.
Just through to Sheena McLeod, please. The taxes that we receive from Riverview, can someone comment on that?
Through the chair, that's just over $700,000 a year.
How much? $7,000 a year? 700. I was going to say, wow, that's low. $700,000 a year. Thank you very much.
Okay, no others. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to ask that Council consider item 20, which is the related item at this point. If we've had 2 delegations, we might as well deal with it.
Item
20.
Item 20 pertains to permissive property tax exemption requests for 2011. What the report details are new requests received this year and information about already or previously approved requests by Council. Staff are asking that Council consider the options detailed in the report and provide direction so that staff can prepare a bylaw for the next regular meeting of Council.
Okay, so we need a motion considers the options. Councillor Reid, we need a motion that can... Councillor Robinson moves option 2, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Reid.
I'm having difficulty with a lot of these, Your Worship. Not that I wouldn't love to give the whole world a tax exemption, including me. But, you know, we were at the town hall meeting the other night, and we're hearing over and over from some of our residents that their kids can't afford to live in Coquitlam. We're hearing that they can't afford to pay taxes. We've got to keep taxes down. This is a lot. In the one area, and something that I guess is close to all of our hearts, because this city's gone on record of providing land for a new homeless shelter, and that are the group homes, and trying to move people into homes and into transitional housing and places where they can be warm and loved and part of the community. But we're being asked to give exemptions on a large building and 9 more group homes. This is a lot. So if we go that way this year, I think we need to have a rethink of our whole process, because if we get to the point where we start having 200 and 300 homes in our city that we're going to have to be exempting, we're in a lot of trouble. We just simply can't afford to do that. So I don't mind going along with option 2 for tonight, but I really have to look at this whole thing. I need all the information in one pile, and we really have to have a big rethink of this, because I think the province is the people that should be picking up these dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I quite agree with Councillor Reid. I think certainly Council needs to take a look at this and try to figure out what's the right thing to do. But in the meantime, we do have these requests before us, and I think we need to respond. The reason I moved option 2 is because what's really clear to me from the presentation is that there isn't a distinction made between group homes and supportive living, that's a government distinction based on level of care. To me, people need homes to live in, and these are certain kinds of people in our community that bring diversity that really don't belong anywhere else except in every single community. So I think it's important that we don't make, I don't think we need to make the distinction between what's supportive living and what's a group home. A home is a home. So that's why I moved option 2. I'm also very pleased to have received Simon Fraser Society for Community Living's annual report. And looking at their revenues, 93% of the revenues comes from government, 92% from the province, and 1% from feds and BC Housing. And just like I think Councillor Reid had mentioned earlier, this is starting to really feel like downloading big time. That we're already paying taxes as taxpayers and to support these kinds of programs, and then to provide tax relief on property taxes means that the rest of the taxpayers pick up the balance, and so it's like the taxpayers are having to cover even more. So the problem relies with the province, and I would like us to also come up with a plan for how do we let the province know that we're not happy that people who live in our communities need to do this, need to come to us because they're not getting funded properly. So I do hope the rest of council will join me in not making the distinction between supportive living and group homes. I think they're the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rasmussen.
Well, thank you very much. You know, these are always difficult decisions that we make, but we're in very tough economic times. We've heard from people about our budgets, our property taxes, the increases we're doing. And what we're being asked for in option 2 is a very large amount of money to be put on the backs of other taxpayers throughout our community at this time that a lot of people are struggling who may not be using these services, but you could be pushing them towards it. I agree with Councillor Reid. We need to figure out exactly where all these exemptions fit in. Are we going to maybe put a limit on the amount of exemption dollars that the city gives? We have quite a list here already of exemptions that we give out that we forego taxes on. And I think at this point in time, it's not responsible for us to extend the exemptions. I think, once again, Councillor Reid's question hit it on the fact that the provincial government is cutting funding to these agencies, and they're looking for ways to help mitigate that impact on them. And I feel for them and I understand, but they're not the only group out there that's in the same boat today. And we as a local civic government that is struggling with our taxes and our residents that are here, I don't think it's prudent at this time to add to our tax exemption. I think we need to have a further, broader discussion of the issue in what Councillor Robinson stated, but to give an exemption, then come back and say, you know what, we changed our mind in our discussion and we're not going that route again, I think is the wrong thing to do. I think we need to, for this year, stay with what we're giving the exemptions for that are already on our list, and then have a discussion in the new year about these exemptions and what it means to us. Because right now we're looking at an exemption or granting an exemption, and we don't know if this is $50,000. What's the dollar amount? We don't know what we're exempting here. Is it $100,000? We're not sure of all the houses that we're asking for. So this is an issue for us to deal with in a broader sense. And I think that's where we should be taking this and for the next year and looking at just not this issue, but all the issues in regards to our exemptions and property taxes and how that balances our needs in our communities and the residents and the taxpayers. Remember, when we make this shift, we're just telling the rest of the community that they're having to pick this up because it will come off the other property taxes throughout the region. It'll be spread across. So that's what I have to consider, and I think we need that broad discussion. I don't think it's time to add and approve things before we've had that broad discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you. I, too, am very uncomfortable with this. Do they need extra money? Absolutely. What I hear from people constantly is the amount of taxes we pay. And we pay taxes to our federal government and to our provincial government. And these requests fall under that purview. So we're already paying our taxes that should be going to this. Now, what's before us is to give them a tax exempt from paying property taxes, which is another tax that we're going to have to offload onto our residents and our businesses. because we need a certain amount of money to run our city every year. And what we don't bring in from some properties, we have to offload that onto other properties. What they're asking to be exempt from is the same thing that everybody else pays for. They pay for fire protection, police protection, their sidewalks out in the front. And I think that it's asking an awful lot at this level of government to ask our taxpayers to shoulder that burden as well. I think it's a shame what the provincial government and the federal governments do when they're downloading, and that's exactly what's happening here. But I think that the taxpayer is the one that ends up getting hit in the pocketbook, paying out 3 different ways for the same service. So I have a big problem with this, and it's one that I think that as a council we really need to look at in the new year.
Thank you. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I got great problems with this also, because everything that's being presented to us is a need and and good for the city, and certainly a lot of service that a lot of volunteers put in that are not getting paid. Maybe some of them do get the little pay, but fact is that we have probably in the millions of dollars that we have no taxes being collected for different buildings, which I believe is correct. But as we keep on adding every year, and there's one that Mayor, I wouldn't mind, this ugly tax that we have imposed of HST, and the fact is if it was going to hospitals, it was going to building bridges and highways, if it was going for these kind of services, I wouldn't mind paying it every day of the week. But it goes in a special fund, and the provincial federal government, they download. And I'll tell you, the city has got a great problem. Like I'll tell you, wherever I go in the course of a day, and I'm very well known in this city. I've served this community for over 40 years, and certainly I'm very well known with a lot of people. And when something happens, I get the phone call. I don't reply to too many emails because I hardly any time at home to reply to my emails. But phone calls, my cell phone keeps ringing all the time. And the fact is, people will complain that they have been taxed to death. They don't want any more taxes. And how do you deal with a situation to where you'll provide exemptions to everybody comes forward? And how do you deal with more services? How do you deal with a whole lot of things and keep on, to me, I think that, we've hit the taxpayers about as high as we can on taxes. I think we have to start holding the line. We really do. Maybe we should have held the line about 2 or 3 years ago, but it wasn't possible. But the thing is, something has to break, because the taxpayers have only one pocket the money comes from. And that's also, we have only one place to collect the money from. The provincial federal government have a lot of pockets that they dip into, because mine is empty. When they get finished with me, it's empty at the end of the year. So I don't know how we go about it, Mayor, and I'm wrestling with this very, this is a great problem, and I don't know whether we should table this whole thing for a discussion one day to where we can discuss it over, for a few hours and get our heads together around this. I don't know, Mayor, maybe you can give me some guidance on how we go about this, but I got great problem because I don't know what is it that I'm voting for. How much money is on a yearly basis? Treasurer, do you know what the exemptions is on everything that we exempt on a yearly basis right now? How many millions is it?
Your Worship, the tax exemption for 2010 was $793,000 in total.
500 some odd thousand dollars.
790.
700. That includes churches that should be excluded. But that includes the church's properties and everything else. 700 and some odd thousand.
793. It's on the first page of your report.
793.
793. So it's almost 1% on taxes that everybody else has to pick up. Those are things that really we have to wrestle. And I know that every department will need something in their department. And we're sitting now, as Sheena mentioned the other day, we're sitting at 5%, bare bones, the way it is now. And I guarantee you, we go to the taxpayer with 5%, we'll get hung. So, it'll be too much. So at least I'm reading that myself. I don't know how other council members feel. But, Mayor, I've got a problem with this one.
Thank you. As do others, it looks like. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I seconded option 2, so obviously I support it. But I think it would only be fair if I spoke to what I'm not supporting and why. I appreciated the energy of the ski patrol's presentation, but I look at the services provided by the Canadian Ski Patrol are great and valuable, but they're delivered all over the place. Simon Fraser Society for Community Living, group homes and supported living are delivered here in our community. And I was pleased to hear primarily to people who are residents originally of our community. So we're not importing people in order to help them out here. But I'm not supporting the office building of the Simon Fraser Society for Community Living. It's not where the services are delivered. I am, though, prepared to support the group homes, the supported living homes, on this year, on the basis that it's consistent. Why should we treat this group differently from others who've applied to us in the past? The fact that they were a little late in coming and asking, I think they came and asked a few years ago probably, but that shouldn't put them out. So that's why I support it. And I think it's important that we not distinguish between groups in our community who are delivering similar services and treat them differently. We need to treat them consistently. But I think everybody needs to notice that whichever side we're on this particular motion, Council seems to be of the common view that we can't go on this way. We have to look at this whole issue and find a better solution, one that effectively puts the problem back where it belongs. In the primary funding agencies, the primary taxing bodies, we only get 8% of the taxes in the country, and we get more and more and more jobs to do with them. But it's only fair to these organizations in our community that they know well ahead of time what we're considering, what decisions we've made, because they have an obligation to be responsible just as we do, and to do their budgeting looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, this is an unpleasant decision that we're going to be making. I don't know how we can turn a blind eye to the fact that we're giving exemptions that are probably equivalent to 1% of our taxes. And I think that if we're going to be taking a look at this, and we have to, we're going into the budget season and starting to debate on the finer details. And last year, I remember we went to so far as to say we're no longer going to be putting doggy bags in our parks and stuff like that. We were really cutting things that were small amounts of money, but they all added up. And I think it's probably a little unrealistic to be telling people that we're going to be increasing the amount of exemptions this year, because the chances are what we really need to do is we need to start looking at them more seriously and perhaps maybe deciding that maybe some of the exemptions we've been able to, because we weren't having the same type of financial considerations, we were able to give those exemptions in the past. But we're going into a tax year, as Mrs. McLeod outlined in our last meeting. We're looking at 5% before we even start to look at anything else, and that's unpalatable, and we're going to be looking at places to cut. So is it really realistic for us to be saying, oh, well, we're going to add now in the middle of September to our tax burden, and then we're going to look at it again probably in January, and we're going to say, what can we do without? So we're going to give some people, if we create new tax exemptions now, we're going to be giving those people false hope that we're going to continue with them. And I don't think it's realistic that we're going to. So I think probably the idea that we've already made a commitment to some people, that we have to say, okay, we're going to honor those previous commitments. But the idea that we say we're going to make new commitments, I think is probably setting a totally unrealistic expectation for those people and for other people who are going to make applications afterwards, because they're going to see that there's a possibility and they're going to apply, and we're going to be faced with another unpleasant and difficult decision. So I think that the realistic thing to do is to be considering status quo, and then we'll take a close look at this in January. And if we can do better next year, well, we will, but we all know what the realistic expectations are of us going to the budget deliberations at this time, and it's not going to be pleasant.
Thank you. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. Well, this is indeed a difficult decision. I agree with Councillor Lynch that at this time, if we're going to do a review of this matter, then we really need to keep up with what we have done in the past, which is to fund group homes, which is option number 3 on this report. Unfortunately, we only have 2 revenue streams in the city, our development cost charges and our property taxes. I think if we had a greater variety of revenue sources, this wouldn't quite be so much of an issue. So I will be supporting option 3, not option 2. Thank you.
And therein lies the main issue. I mean, I don't blame these groups that have come forward at all. I applaud you for coming forward. I applaud you for the work you do, and I know that all of council does. There are a great many wonderful groups that do tremendous work in our community, but council knows where this is going. Council knows we've seen the light at the end of the tunnel is essentially an approaching train where everybody will be asking for an exemption. And it's not really an exemption. It's actually a redirection. It means that someone else will have to pay the taxes on behalf of these organizations. And I understand the request. I recall the Fraser Health Authority had cut some programs that our community and our council valued tremendously. Some of the programs were actually run out of buildings that the city owned, and the city subsidized the rent on those buildings already. And then, of course, the organizations had to come to the city and say, well, could you pick up the cost of this health program? And the city, as has been mentioned by several others, doesn't have the tax room, the tax sources to do these things. There are lots of different types of taxes. There are income taxes, sales taxes, excise taxes, EI and payroll taxes, insurance taxes, excise taxes. There's inheritance tax. There's even a type of property tax called a property transfer tax that doesn't come to local government. The only tax the local government gets really is property taxes. It's about 8 cents. For all of the cities in Canada, get about 8 cents of the dollar that's collected across the country in taxation. And for that, and I don't even blame the senior levels of government, because what they're doing is they're saying, well, they have the power to just dump it onto some other level and balance their budget. And they do this. We've had federal governments and provincial governments for decades dumping more and more duties and responsibilities on local government, but never giving us any more tax room, simply saying, take it out of property taxes. Well, as Councillor Sikora said, there's not enough room left. There's a lot of people that are screaming about property taxes, and I believe that's a significant issue that we have to come to grips with. So we're left without the ability to take on voluntarily the downloads of more costs associated with provincial responsibilities or federal responsibilities. Those responsibilities belong to another level of government, and while we empathize tremendously, we also empathize just as strongly with the taxpayers that are in our community reaching their limit. And so I'm going to support option 2 at this point. I'm going to support having council have an in-depth discussion on this issue in the coming months, because we do have to come to grips with what we do in future years to remain equitable, but also to take into account that we cannot redirect all of the taxes from all of those organizations that we think are valuable and do good work in our community onto the backs of really the homeowners and businesses that employ in our community. I see Councillor Reid possibly has an amendment.
I have an amendment, but it's certainly not friendly. Well, it's sort of friendly.
I've never seen you do anything not friendly before. Go ahead.
Really?
Okay, I have.
Try it on for size.
That council decline the new request for permissive property tax exemptions for 2011 and direct staff to bring forward all pertinent data and information as to all current property exemptions for our retreat in January.
The first half of that, at least, is already in the motion, and the second half of it is, I believe, I'm looking to the clerk for guidance. Option 2 entails declining everybody that isn't in option 2.
That's correct. Option 2 is that the group homes and supported homes would be supported, but not the program offices.
I'm not adding anything. As Councillor Lynch, I do not want to add anything this year. We could be cutting services ourselves, Your Worship.
Oh, I know.
And certainly with regard to staff coming back with additional information and options for council to consider, staff would take that as direction and certainly will proceed in that direction. So.
And it comes down to decline the new requests.
Okay. The amendment would then change the approval of some of the requests.
Yes.
Yes, it would negate option 2 in its entirety because option 2 suggests that there are.
It would negate option 3 as well.
Yep.
So that's why I made a new one.
Okay. You made it by an amendment of the existing one, though, and of course, I'll have to rule it out of order because it is a change.
Not friendly. Yes.
Well, it's worse than not friendly. It's the opposite of the motion on the floor. So the motion on the floor, I'm going to rule is still on the floor. Although the motion, I'll take the half of the amendment. You're allowed to sever your amendment into direction to staff to establish some agenda item on the council retreat, along with the supporting information. Okay, and I'll accept that as friendly, I assume. So now we have a motion that has been expanded slightly, but doesn't include your rejection of everybody on the group home and the supported living side. Understood?
No.
It's option 2 plus.
Okay.
No.
So it's still option 2. It's still option 2. We haven't rejected any new applications for supported housing or group homes.
So we can just decline option 2 then?
You could vote against this if you like. Any other speakers to this? Seeing none. The motion is option 2 and a retreat in January. All in favor? All opposed? Councillor Lynch, Councillor Reid, Councillor Sikora, Councillor McDonnell, Councillor Asmussen, and Councillor Reamer are opposed. The motion fails. Councillor Reid probably has a motion. Could you turn your mic? Wait a second, please. There you go.
Council decline the new requests for permissive property tax exemptions for 2011.
Motion is to decline. It isn't to approve any, so we'll probably need another motion to accept the rest of them. Do you want to put in as well that we accept the existing ones but decline new ones?
Move option 4.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe the wording was decline the new requests, not previously approved.
So that
and I said the new request.
That's fine. So to accept the remaining ones, to decline the new ones. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none. All in. Okay. Mr. Clerk?
That council declined the new requests, by which it means that previously approved requests, ones from previous years, will go forward in the bylaw to come forward in 2 weeks' time, and that staff prepare materials for retreat in January.
Effectively status quo.
Yes.
Seeing no other discussions, the motion is status quo. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Reamer, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Nicholson are opposed. The motion carries. That isn't, of course, the bylaw. The bylaw will come back to us in October for ratification of the permissive tax exemption bylaw.
That is correct.
If you could just announce that in January we will be looking at this whole thing.
Yes, we do have a...
People have to know that we need to review this.
Council is scheduling a retreat for the discussion of a number of issues in depth in January, and that will now be on the agenda for that meeting. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item, item 12, concerns the minutes of the Land Use and Economic Development Standing Committee meeting of July 26. Recommendations to receive those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item 13 is the minutes of the Land Use and Economic Development Standing Committee meeting of September 13th. And recommendations to receive those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Asmussen.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. I will have to excuse myself on the next item, as this is a perceived potential conflict, as this development is within close proximity to my home. Thank you.
Now, I understand, Councillor Asmussen, that you'll also be excluding yourself on 13.8 and 13.9.
That's correct.
In which case, I'd ask Council's indulgence to reorder the numbers and keep you out as long as possible before inviting you back.
Is that 13.4, Your Worship?
We're at 13.4, and then we'll move to 0.8 and 0.9 before returning to 0.5. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item concerns development variance permits for a series of development variance permits for 3459, 3461, 3463 Victoria Drive, and also 3458, 3460, and 3462 Wilkie Avenue. Prior to reading the recommendation, I would invite Your Worship to call for speakers.
Indeed, we handle these as a mini public hearing within the council meeting, and I'm going to invite any speakers to this development variance permit wish to make their views known to council. We have one on the speakers list already, pre-registered, Laszlo Horvath. And following that, any other speakers will be permitted.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My issue is very tiny compared to the magnitude of the problems raised at this meeting. As you can tell from my Stampede shirt, I wasn't prepared for for this meeting. I thought this will be a more casual meeting. Anyway, I believe this is the only and maybe only opportunity I have, so I took it. It is about, I forgot to present myself. My name is Laszlo Horvath, resident of 3466 Wilkie Avenue. I'm neighbor with the new development which is going on Wilkie and Victoria. I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't believe that this is not a done deal. I believe this is a request for approval, so hopefully we still have a saying. However, it might be a bit too late. Excavation is going on as I speak. I believe they are already done, and at least two corners of this block. It is a request to for variance from the bylaw. I believe the bylaw has multiple reasons. If I may, I would just list two of them, which I know. One of them is to protect, to assure a nice curb appeal of the street we all live on, and I am okay with that. The second one, I believe, is to protect the neighbors, to protect those who already live or will live in this area. I am one of those. So I am, since I'm directly affected by this development, probably nobody else is going to speak for me. And since I believe I'm the only one neighbor, there might be another direct neighbor from on the Victoria side, but I don't know if they are here or not. I believe this request falls short on both of the aspects. Preserving a nice curb appeal, it might look nice if you look at this at the drawing, which shows the view from the street, but it's an ugly sight if you look from the side, from the ends. Basically, what I will need to face every single day, ugly, tall gable wall, and on the other side is the same thing. The permit application requests for to increase the second floor from 85% from the first floor to 100%. So basically, the second floor to have the same surface like the first floor. Well, I wouldn't oppose this. It wouldn't affect me. What means we have a bigger second floor means I have a bigger roof line and a bigger shadow casted on my yard. So I would fight every single square inch of sunlight lost on my yard. This kind of forced me into the situation, if this will be approved, forced me into the situation to go for permit to build a house, because my property is a 66-foot lot property plus a 33-foot lot, which has a septic field now, but eventually I will be connected to the city, and I consider developing something on that land just to hide the ugliness of the new gable wall there. However, I never really considered that. I thought I can live my life enjoying a slightly bigger yard than the new neighbors will have. Surprisingly, the application was issued for 6 properties, and unfortunately I don't have a map to show you the 6 properties. None of the 6 properties are directly neighboring me, since the 4 corners are not submitting any request for change. I was informed that those properties already conform to the 100 to 85% ratio between the floors. I'm really surprised because all those lots are exactly equal. If I see a street view of the new drawing, all the houses are the same. Well, I don't have exact drawings, to be honest, because the city didn't provide it me when I came here. But if this let me just quote one single sentence from the application. The application says the following: if the application is approved, it would facilitate the construction of a new single-family dwelling. Well, simple logical deduction. If wouldn't be approved, that means no single-family dwelling can be built on that land, which I don't think so is correct. I believe by altering the design of the home, they can fit within the boundaries of the RS7 zoning law. And if would be true, if this homes, the lot 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9 requires an application, then 1, 5, 6, and 10 also requires an application. I was told that those do not require an application because they will attach a covered porch in front, and in that way they circumvent the bylaw. It's very hard for me to buy into this. So I have, I don't know, I would like really to put on the projector, if you can provide me a better looking drawing, I would use that. Otherwise, I will try to project this one on the screen, if I may.
Go ahead. You have to put it.
Another way.
Turn it sideways, please. There you go.
As you can see, my house is neighbor to this one. It's a huge gable wall on this side. It's not really visible on the picture. This looks pretty. This has a sloping roof line. This has a sloping roof line. This is again an ugly gable. This one. As you can see, exactly the view from this end and this end is ugly. The front wouldn't be altered if you would make a swap. If you swap, for example, this house with this one. If you would replace this house with this one, on my end I would have a sloping roof line, and the sun will be somewhere here during the evening. You'll have a chance to actually hit my lawn. Basically, we are simply swapping a couple of these drawings. This drawing to come here, this drawing to here. Would, I don't want to say that it would make me happy, but would make me happier than I am at this moment. Since I see the excavation is going on right now, I don't really know how far with the plan approval, if there's any owner owning those properties or not yet, or just the developer is preparing the houses to be sold, to be put in the market later. If the developer owns the land and all the houses at this moment, I believe a change is possible, practically possible. If somebody already bought into some of those houses with those conditions, maybe they will have a hard time accepting any change.
I suspect the developer didn't sell the homes prior to the development variance permit, but I'm not certain of that. I'm going to have to, are you almost done? We've got one council member.
I am almost done. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Councillor Reid has a question.
Not for you, sir, but for Mr. McIntyre. Mr. McIntyre, this is a development variance permit. Would it be possible that the developer could, as the bases are going to be the same, is it possible the developer could redesign the actual homes, because the bases will be the same, to put the ones that would affect this gentleman's house next to his? I see he's staggering them with different. And if so, then could we defer this till the next Land Use Committee to get a report and bring it forward to the next council meeting? Or not?
Your Worship, and through the Chair, I was just conferring with staff on that. Now that I understand and better appreciate the concern. There very well may be, and it likely is, a solution in terms of shifting around the unit designs to come up with a design that's adjacent to the neighbor's property that allows for that better sunlight penetration. The way the variance is set up right now, it's each lot, that's why there's 6 of them, each of the proposed lots has a proposed design and variance. So we would need to take it away, work with the applicant, and perhaps be in touch with this gentleman, and come back with an option for committee and council's consideration. There'd probably be the need then to re-notify for when it came back again before council.
I would so move that would happen, Your Worship.
Why don't we wait until the public hearing portion of it's complete, because we may have other speakers. Are there any other questions of this gentleman? Ms. Reamer. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. My question is both for the gentleman and for staff. I'm a little confused because if you refer to attachment 1, the DVP is actually on those 6 lots, and it looks like, sir, what is your address?
My address is 3466 Wilkie.
3466, because so we're only talking about 3458 and 3459 and over to the east. This isn't a DVP for 3456 or 3457. So if this gentleman's concerned about the sun on his house.
Because unfortunately no application was submitted for the property adjacent to me, meaning understand that like an application was already approved, or they try to circumvent, not even apply for a variant, but the houses have exactly the same shape, the same size like the other ones. So if a variant is required for this lot, this, and so on, then a variance is required, should be required logically for the end lots. Nobody requested that. The development is going on now. I want to speak now before it's too late, because when the foundation, everything is in place, I guess it's too late.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you very much. Mayor, I don't know how many of these kind of houses we're going to have in northeast Coquitlam, but they're plain ugly. I can't describe them any other way. I'd hope that we weren't building these kind of homes all over northeast Coquitlam.
We're not.
Frankly, I'll tell you something. I don't know. Maybe it's only me. I hope it's only me, but they're ugly.
It's only you.
Pardon?
It's only you.
It's only you.
It's only me, maybe. But you know something?
But a calendar with houses like this.
For a neighbor to be looking at this, the kind of development, is ridiculous for a neighbor to be faced with this kind of developer right next to him.
Okay, we're sending it back.
So I hope that it goes back to something that's more pleasant, more meaningful, and looks like a house that says a collection. Yeah, it is a collection of ugly homes. Thank you.
And I rise quickly in the defense of East Coast Cape Cod architecture. They actually have calendars with this kind of home. They've got entire villages that have... Anyway.
I've been there.
Okay.
You may be going back quickly.
Well, every type of architecture has its critics.
I spent a week there one night.
Quickly trying to get control of the meeting.
Your Worship, if we can continue to call for speakers.
I'm going to ask for any other speakers to this item. Please come forward and state your name, address, and architectural preference.
Mayor Stewart, councillors. My name is Jean Peachman. I live at 3469 Wilkie Avenue. I'm on the north side across from the Horvath family. I just wanted to make you aware that land lots 6 through 9 have been raised significantly. They've been filled, so the land there is quite high, much, much higher. I'm guessing there's a drop of at least 5 to 6 feet from the sidewalk to Mr. Horvath's front yard. So he is already at a major disadvantage on height. These 3-story homes that they're proposing to put in are exceptionally high. I don't know what the height is, but the steep pitch of the roof, they look astronomical. We have an existing community with older homes, 2-level, plenty of room. We have yard space. But looking across the street for my home is going to be very unpleasant. The homes on the raised land, full steep roof, they're going to impact our sunlight. They're going to be an invasion on our own privacy. And I agree with Mr. Sikora that they are going to be an eyesore. We've had numerous problems. I know this is a little bit off track, but with the raised land, every time it rains, we have water runoffs. I have a small lake in front of my home right now on the street. The sewers, the storm drains have not taken away the water. The box culvert that was built for Smiling Creek is eroding right now. It's disappearing along the side. I'm also with the Hyde Creek Watershed Society, so I have grave concerns about the river systems in the creek and what's going on in our neighborhood. The impact of the water is not being controlled on the roads or by the developer or whoever is responsible for the runoff. It's impacting the neighbors. It's impacting the creek. I just want to say that if there's a plan to have a 3-story stark box homes that do not conform or complement an existing neighborhood, it's an unconscionable choice. Please deny this application. Send the builders back to the drawing board to design low-impact 2-level homes that will blend in with an existing community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers to this item? Are there any other speakers to this item? For the third and final time, are there any other speakers to this item? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing portion of the development variance permit application closed. Mr. Kirk.
Your Worship, the recommendation before you is to approve the sign and sealing of the 6 development variance permits for the properties identified in Victoria Drive and Wilkie Avenue, and the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute these permits on behalf of the City.
Councillor Reid.
I don't know if you have to vote on this recommendation. I don't want to totally decline the whole application right now. I wish to return it back to staff. So can I defer it back?
Councillor Reid is the chair of the Land Use and Economic Development Standing Committee. It would undoubtedly be returning then to the Standing Committee after staff review it and come up with a solution here. And
so perhaps if I could suggest, just because and Mr. McIntyre can correct me, I'm uncertain on how long it would take for a revised proposal, so that this be deferred to a future meeting of the Land Use Committee and that staff be directed to work with the applicant.
I don't want to put a timeline on it. I want it done right. Thank you.
Motion by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Robinson to defer this to a future meeting of the Land Use and Economic Development Standing Committee, and that staff will work with the applicant to come up with an acceptable solution that will meet the needs of the committee as it deliberates. Any discussion on that?
Sorry.
Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, Worship. As mentioned at the time of the departure of Councillor Asmussen, we'll move to item 13.8 this time. Item 13.8 is consideration of fourth and final reading of a series of special community plan amendment bylaws, and these are bylaws number 4142, 4144, and zoning amendment bylaws 4143, 4145, and 4146. They pertain to 3445 Gislison Avenue, property numbers SC13 and SC16. The Land Use and Economic Development Standing Committee recommendation is the following, and I will identify them one at a time. That Council give fourth and final reading to Citywide Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 4142 pertaining to subject property SC 13.
Second, with the comment.
Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Reid. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. This is just a reminder to Council that there are boundary changes to reflect the new lot lines in this subdivision, and there will be a subdivision plan and covenants will be registered at the same time on all of this property. Thank you.
Very good. No other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Fourth and final reading to City of Coquitlam and Citywide Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw 4144, and it pertains to the portion of subject property SC 16 north of SRW Plan 48292 and west of Smiling Creek.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Not yet.
Item 3, recommendation 3 is to give fourth and final reading to zoning amendment bylaw 4143 pertaining to subject property SC 13.
Moved by Councillor Robinson and Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Recommendation 4 is fourth and final reading to zoning amendment bylaw 4145 pertaining to the portion of subject property SC 16 north of SRW Plan 48292 and west of Smiling Creek.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Nicholson. Did I get it wrong? Okay. Moved by Councillor Nicholson. No. Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Nicholson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There are two voices over here, and they seem to try to do it in unison, like indeed it did.
On that one, the clerk's office will adjudicate the winner as being Councillor Reamer, for the record. Item 5 is fourth and final reading to zoning amendment bylaw 4146 pertaining to the remainder of subject property SC 16.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Reamer. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
No, we still can't have Councillor Asmunsen back. We have one more.
And the final one for Councillor Asmunsen's absence concerns 13.9, and this is the 5% provision of parkland pursuant to Section 941 of the Local Government Act for proposed subdivision at 3373 Darwin Avenue. Recommendations that the owner of the proposed subdivision provide 5% cash in lieu to address these provisions.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, second by Councillor Nicholson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
I will just go. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. The next item on the agenda is item 13.5. This pertains for an authorization for the issuance of development permits for 1460 Southview Street for Cedar Creek, a street-oriented village home development. The recommendation is that Council approve the signing and sealing of the development permit for this address and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute it. And secondly, that Council approve the signing and sealing of the development permit for 1480 Southview Street and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute this permit.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. 13.6 is a preliminary report on an application for zoning amendment bylaw 4150 at 405 Mundy Street. The recommendation from the standing committee is that Council give first reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 4150 and that this bylaw and this related application be referred to public hearing. Moved by Councillor Asmunsen, second by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 13.7 is a consideration of fourth and final reading of official community plan amendment bylaw number 4132 and zoning amendment bylaw 4133 pertaining to 1450 Johnson Street. The first recommendation is that Council give fourth and final reading to official community plan amendment bylaw number 4132.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Reamer. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'll let Councillor Asmunsen know that we did dispense with the next two items in your absence as well.
The second recommendation on this item is that Council give fourth and final reading to zoning amendment bylaw 4133.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Nicholson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm just going to call 1 second, please. We just had one procedural issue come up, and it's been resolved. Thank you very much.
The next item for Council's consideration is 1311. This pertains to Port Moody Draft Official Communion Plan Bylaw number 2489. Recommendations that Council direct staff to send a letter with a copy of the attached report to Port Moody providing comments on its draft OCP.
Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Reamer. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 1312 concerns the city policy on third-party consultation fees. Recommendations that Council approve the following policy recommending consultation fees. That the City of Coquitlam does not compensate any party, and some are listed before you, for participating in its consultation outreach program, including its land use and management plans. And 2, that Council forward a copy of the attached report and the approved policy to the province, the LMTAC, and other local governments and First Nations in the Metro Vancouver area.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Lynch. Councillor McDonnell.
Yeah, are we being charged by First Nations for consulting fees here?
They wish to.
Yeah, from my understanding, and I would defer to other staff, but we have not at this time, but there are jurisdictions where that question is coming into play. Councillor Asmussen may have more to add as representative on the Lower Mainland Treaty Advisory Committee, but it has an issue that has been raised at different points in the province.
Yeah, well, we don't pay fees to any of the other cities or any of the other governments or recognized governments, and if they want to be recognized as a government, then you shouldn't be paying consultation fees to them either.
Councillor Asmussen has a thought on that too.
Thank you very much. That's the reason for this report being here. It came before LMTAC from the Tsleil-Waututh band wanting to charge for consultation, feeling that they didn't have the capacity. And the LMTAC made a motion that no city should be paying consultation fee for those exact reasons, that we do not pay for other levels of government or other cities and municipalities. This is just to formalize it in all the cities and have it before them to have them understand the issue, that we do not pay consultation fees to other levels of government. Thank you.
So this isn't a change in policy, this is simply an affirmation.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Any further comment, Ms.? No, we're good. Any other discussion? Seeing none. The motion is staff recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
With item 14, we move into the portion of the evening concerning the Engineering, Utilities, and Environment Standing Committee. Staff feel that it's an opportune time to provide Council an update as to some of the flooding events over the weekend, and I invite Mr. Suzak to speak to that matter.
Mr. Suzak, our General Manager of Engineering Public Works, will be giving us a briefing on some unusual flooding conditions that we suffered through on the weekend, and some of the people in our community that did a lot of work, and some people that suffered a lot. So, Mr. Suzak.
Thanks, Your Worship. City of Coquitlam experienced essentially a micro burst like rainfall on Sunday morning. I'm just reading off of very few statistics here to give you a sense of the context. In the month of September, regular total rainfall for the entire month is about 78 millimeters. The maximum daily rainfall for Coquitlam was recorded at 45 millimeters back in the 1970s. On Saturday, we received just over 50 millimeters of rain, and Sunday's rainfall data is not available yet, but those with experience advised me today that it was substantially more than what we received on Saturday. So we did have high intensity, short duration storm. Events started at about 3 a.m. on Sunday. My understanding is the first call was a 911 call that the fire department responded to. We had one, I believe, elderly lady who needed to be rescued from a basement suite that was filling with 3 to 4 feet of water. We mobilized 10 staff immediately out of the drainage and roads crews, and that staff was later relieved about 12 hours later. The city responded to 25 to 30 calls of service, calls for service on Sunday. All of those calls were actively responded to, and attendance on site. We had some significant impacts on the Nelson Creek drainage. A number of areas were eroded, and we have geotechnical engineers standing by to give us reports on how best to remediate. One of the concerns that I found out late today was that the events, the flooding events, were caused by accumulations of debris at the intakes of culverts, and essentially almost a first flush type of action. Now, what's really concerning to our staff is that in addition to organic debris, they were pulling out a number of dumped materials. For example, carpets covered some of the inlets, and so clearly we've had a bit of illegal dumping, and some of that activity has actually impacted the drainage system. So I thought I would relay that is something that's quite serious and can impact public safety. That is, when people are not responsible in how they dispose of solid waste. In conclusion, lots of activity from the fire department as well as public works, and we are in the process of essentially mopping up, if you will.
Thank you very much. I'd ask you to please pass on to your staff that got up at 3 in the morning on those calls our thanks of council. The fire crews as well. Of course, fire crews are used to getting up at 3 in the morning occasionally and spend all night at things. But thank you to the crews on both fire department and public works for their work, and thank you for that report. Any other comments? Seeing none. Motion to receive would be in order. Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Asmundson to receive. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Item 14 pertains to the minutes of the Engineering, Utilities and Environment Standing Committee meeting of July 26th. Recommendations to receive those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor McDonnell. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
First item of business arising out of that committee's meeting concerns the Coquitlam River Watershed Strategy. This is a Phase 3 summary report. Recommendations that Council receive the summary report, and second, that staff be directed to undertake Phase 4, which involves the implementation of a potential government strategy for the Coquitlam River Watershed in partnership with the agencies before you.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Councillor McDonnell.
Oh, did we do both? Or we just did that number one, didn't we?
No, we did the whole.
Oh, I thought we said, okay, never mind then.
I had a feeling that you wanted to comment on number 2. I didn't quite get the vote, so I'm going to allow Councillor McDonnell to have comments about item number 2. Go ahead.
Thank you. For just on the bottom line of this, how much is this actually costing Coquitlam?
To date, all of the work, other than staff time, there has been staff involved in this process, has been funded by external agencies like DFO, Hydro, and others.
But I read this, the way I read this, we're going to be asked now to contribute some money into this. Is this correct?
This project is moving into what's being called the Phase 4 implementation stage to figure out how to best make it work. Out of that implementation study will come the numbers, will come the costs, and that will drive the conversation about, is this of value? But we're not there yet. We still
So
need to
we're
go
not
through that phase
agreeing-
and then come to council.
We're not
after that.
agreeing to any of these payments without knowing about them. So if by passing this doesn't mean that whatever they come back with and asking for us, that we're going to give it to them without coming to council first?
To my knowledge, Your Worship, there are no payments to POCO or other parties. The funding is external for this project.
But as I read this now, they may be asking for money from us. Is that true? That's all I'm asking.
I'm going to ask Stephanie if she has any comments on that.
We are moving into phase 4 of this project, which is currently funded entirely. Part of the phase 4 project work will be to establish a funding model and proposal for any future work related to this strategy. And at that phase, this would come forward to council in a future staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my question.
Okay, but it does raise an interesting point. Yes. My understanding of this directs staff to undertake phase 4, implementation of a potential governance strategy, with $60,500 of grant funding contributed by. That means phase 4 will cost within the $60,000. Is how I read that, and that's not what I'm getting now. Is that it may come back to us with instructions for council to contribute its share or some more money or something. Is that the case?
There's more.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, Your Worship, my understanding is that the phase 4 implementation study work is not to cost the city of Coquitlam any money. However, there may well be implications for the, if this is to start, then yes, there will likely be financial implications to Coquitlam, but that money would not be authorized or allocated by council unless or until there is a full staff report about how this is implemented. But first, the study work must be done. That study work is funded by external sources.
I read the financial impact of section of the report, and that's not the impression I got. So I'm going to, but nonetheless, there is no decision to be made today related to further funding of this, so we'll follow up after the meeting. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Well, on page 3, it says that our funding has, in the beginning, the backgrounder, that the funding's been matched with more than $60,000 of in-kind support from the city of Coquitlam. Now, you know, you're all asking for cash, but in-kind support takes away our resources, and we're running a pretty lean machine here these days, and after this budget, it might get leaner. So, you know, I'm not prepared to put in, you know, hours and hours and hours more time into this when we may need our staff in-house for doing things. I think we have to get our priorities. If our chief engineer thinks that this is a priority, then I guess that's where we go. But we need to watch our funding on this and the time of our staff.
Yeah, I concur. I read the same background document, and I took that as historical. This funding has been matched historically with $60,000. Is the $60,000 in-kind support the historical? Is that support that we've given in the past, or is it anticipated expenditures? That's at the end of the first paragraph of page 3 of the staff report, the background document.
But also on page 7, Your Worship, it says that we've also, Coquitlam River Aggregate put money in, all the gravel operators, we did too. So whether it's in kind or if it's cash, it's still money to our citizens. So
I understand. I wonder, my question is that looking forward, or is that contributions to date? Mr. Suzak.
Your Worship, I'm going to ask Ms. Warner to comment on that issue.
It is my understanding that those are contributions to date, and it is not exclusive to City of Coquitlam. I don't have the breakdown of City of Coquitlam's actual financial in-kind support in front of me, but the statement does read $60,000 of in-kind support from the City of Coquitlam, its project funding partners, and the many watershed stakeholders and volunteers. So it is a collective amount that's referenced there.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. The revote on the two recommendations. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 14.3 concerns water conservation initiatives. The recommendations that Council revise the toilet rebate policy effective October 4th, provide you specifications regarding replacement toilets, that Council continue to support the Rain Barrel program, that Council endorse the policy of making indoor-outdoor water-wise kits available to residents, and that water conservation programs and outreach be supported.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. My own rain barrel is completely full today. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 14.4 relates to mitigating the impacts of poor construction practices. With Council's permission, I'll read the bylaws separately, and then items 2, 3, and 4 we'll consider as one motion after that. The first recommendation that Council give first, second, and third readings to building amending bylaw number 4147, which will have the effect of increasing security deposits collected in relation to building, demolition, and pool permits issued by the City pursuant to its building bylaw as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Lynch. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question about the issue in our town center here with respect to the drilling. That's not part of this. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and that question relates to the fact that we've asked for a number of reports related to reducing noise impacts in the town center. Those reports are coming in a different format from this. This one is the one that used to be called mitigating the impacts of development. And okay. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
The second bylaw is asking Council to give first, second, and third readings to bylaw notice enforcement bylaw amending bylaw 4126, which has the effect of adding positions to those authorized to act as enforcement officers pursuant to our Bylaw Notice Enforcement Act, of increasing the fines payable, respective violations identified before you under the Street and Traffic Bylaw, and increasing those fines from $50 to $150, and of completing a housekeeping amendment in respect to the violations of the Fire Prevention and Life Safety Bylaw 3172.
Moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Robinson, the most unusual motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
The next recommendations are the following. The staff be directed to include the cost of inspection of city infrastructure related to building as outlined in the report in the next fees and charges bylaw update that's being brought forward to Council later this year. The staff be directed to refer an additional position for consideration in the 2011 operating budget with general duties to be related to addressing construction-related issues and job duties as explained in the report, and that staff be directed to bring forward a subsequent report and amending bylaw to the subdivision and development servicing bylaw, increasing local road curb to curb cross sections from the specifications before you, along with other housekeeping type amendments.
All of those have been moved by Councillor Asmussen, seconded by Councillor Reamer. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 14.5 concerns strategic transportation plans of Phase 1, discovering and envisioning. The recommendation that Council endorse the vision, goals, and objectives identified in Attachment A to guide the update of the strategic transportation plan.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Item 14.6 concerns the 2009 Annual Water Quality Report, and the recommendation that Council direct staff to forward a copy of this report to the Fraser Health Region in accordance with legal requirements.
Moved by Councillor McAnally, seconded by Councillor Asmussen. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. Just a quick question with regards to the HAA concentrations. We suspended operation of one of the 2 rechlorination stations in the plateau, and then we're planning on further reducing the amount of chlorine so it gets to be what the accepted limits are. Are we just expecting that that time will solve that problem, or are we doing something else to mitigate, to allow those levels to get back to where they should be?
It's principally time and reducing concentrations, and we're going to try to keep on reducing concentrations. We will be monitoring the water quality, and we will report out on those concentrations probably early next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 15 is the minutes of the Engineering, Utilities, and Environment Standing Committee meeting of Monday, September 13th. Recommendations to receive those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Rasmussen, second by Councillor Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
First item arising out of that committee's meeting concerns the Traffic Safety Technical Working Group. The recommendations that Council directs staff to report back on an annual basis the activities, accomplishments, and upcoming work plans of this technical working group as described within the report.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Reamer. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, here's a prime example of what happens when you start building an empire, and that's what I call it. Nothing more, nothing less. The fact is that, you know, we have traffic problems in the city. There's speeders all over the place. Go through any street. They're going 60 kilometers an hour, they pass you, or they give you the finger, or they follow you so close that you get a rear ender if you put your brakes on. Here's a deal to where we're going to put a group together to study public safety. All we need is traffic enforcement by the RCMP. Some heavy traffic enforcement, that's all. But you've got about 8 or 9 people that are going to be meeting on a weekly basis, drinking coffee, and talking about how to make the streets safe. Very simple. Traffic enforcement, period. And I mean, I'd like to also ask how many of these people that are going to be on this committee live in Coquitlam? Probably very few or none of them. The fact it'll come to work to Coquitlam 8 o'clock in the morning, they'll leave at 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon, they're gone. They don't know what's happening on the city streets. So, you know, somehow we're going to have some kind of brain wave in here of these 8 or 9 people that are going to really make the streets safe in this community. The only way you're going to make the streets safe in this community is our traffic department. We've got 18 officers on traffic. They need to get out of those offices that are across the street here and get out on the road in the traffic cars and start issuing some tickets. And that's very, very simple. You know, I mean, I've had many near misses of, you know, people making a right-hand turn from the left-hand lane. I've had people making a left-hand turn from a right-hand lane. I've had people that will go right through by the Kentucky Fried Chicken. You sit there and issue 200 tickets a day because the arrow shows that you must turn right. The buses don't turn right because they can't. They run that way. So the cars that are driving through there think it's the same thing for them. So if you go past Kentucky Fried Chicken, you want to get into the lane where I live and make a right-hand turn, 20 times, 19 out of 20 times, you better keep your eye open because there's somebody alongside of you that went right through on that lane. And you go up on Austin Avenue, doesn't matter what night. The other day, as I mentioned, Mayor, that was a fact, and I phoned the RCMP, and I don't know whatever happened to that turkey. But anyways, in any case, seriously, the fact is that, you know, the 4 gentlemen in a convertible going to a wedding, they decided to make a U-turn in the middle of Poirier and Austin. Now, that intersection, that there's hundreds of cars going there through the day. They decided to make a U-turn. And these are the kind of violations that are happening in our city. And I don't see any traffic police stopping people. I know that the previous superintendent said it's not safe to stop people on the street. Well, the highway patrol stops them on the highway. Before they were safe to stop, all of a sudden that superintendent said it wasn't safe. So now we got a new superintendent, hopefully that it changes. But enforcement is the answer. You can't have a bunch of people sitting down, school district 43 secretary treasurer. What does he know about traffic? He's a secretary treasurer. He goes to his office and does his homework that he has to do, or work in his office, and he leaves at 4 or 4:30. I mean, you got to think about it, what's put together. I mean, all we're doing, seriously, is building a bureaucracy. And anything I hate is an empire building of bureaucracies. We need to cut the red tape. We need to cut the red tape, not build the darn thing. And that's what we're doing, is building. And every time there's a problem in the city, we're going to appoint a whole 10 or 15 brain wavers. They're going to tell us how to fix something. We never had this problem before. The traffic department went and did their job. The police department went and did their job, and everything was fine in the city. And now it seems like, they don't have enough police force. I guess not. Sitting in coffee shops and having donuts and coffee, I guess there's not enough. And I know, Mayor, that I'm saying things that but I've seen 6 and 7 policemen in one coffee shop, and I'll tell you, at the peak hours, and I don't think that that's right. Okay, very, very simple. Enforcement is a must in this city. Do we ask the police department for enforcement? No, we don't. And that's it. We don't need no fancy committees. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it to the chair of that. There's several of us that want to speak to this one, but I'm going to turn to the chair of engineering, Councillor Asmussen.
Thank you very much. Well, I support this. This is a technical working group meeting every 2 months to discuss traffic issues and traffic safeties from different stakeholders and how to improve road structure and traffic safety. And I think we've had issues from around the region here, from the schools about traffic, crosswalks, speeding, different issues, and you design roads and traffic on how to minimize the dangers out there. And this group's going to come together and meet to discuss those issues. And I think we don't work in isolation. I think we have to work with our other partners to better improve our road structures, our safeties, whether it means curb bump outs in some areas, working better with the school district to help improve the safety. And we've had the school, different PACs coming to here talking about the issues around their schools of traffic. We just did work with this Charles Best School, redoing some of the work in their hazards in through that area. And we need to work with the school district, ICBC, RCMP, on issues within the city. And I think it's important that every 2 months is and there may not be that many, but that's the plan, to meet every 2 months. I think it's a worthwhile exercise to help improve traffic safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll offer some comments as well. I was president of the District Parent Advisory Council a couple of years ago, and we did some deep analysis of traffic safety around schools. I'll use that as an example because it is one of the issues at the top of mind this time of year, as a lot of kids are going back to school and as rainy, darker days are starting to make them a little bit less visible. And almost all of the issues raised were not traffic violations around schools. They were road design issues. They were layout issues associated with blind spots on crosswalks and things, or lack of crosswalks. And I really believe that, Charles Best, Councillor Asmussen just mentioned that, we implemented some changes that were designed by the traffic safety folks in our engineering department that were designed to correct a roadway that its original design actually caused, or contributed rather, to some accidents. And we saw traffic backups that went across a crosswalk, and you can't have traffic backed up across a crosswalk when the light turns. Those sorts of issues, we were able to correct them through an analysis of the kinds of traffic issues we've got. ICBC also has a program where they actually analyze traffic accidents and try to find out what caused them. And in many cases, if there's a road design issue that is contributing or at the very least not helping, ICBC actually provides funding for some of the corrections that need to be done. if we only enforce, then we'll never add crosswalks. We'll never add sidewalks. We'll never add traffic lights or crossing signals. But if we analyze the kinds of issues that there are, if we include the school board, the secretary, treasurer, or whoever at the school board, if we include the kinds of groups that can help us in trying to make our community as safe as possible, then we'll end up with a community that's safer. We'll end up with fewer accidents. And we'll also help the police do their job. They'll be able to focus on the areas that are the very worst. I got to say, our police force, I've seen them out there on the roads in rain, in bad weather. I've seen our speed watch folks, our volunteers, out there in rain and bad weather and snow, always focused on trying to make our streets safer. And I know the traffic department doesn't have enough resources. I know our bylaw teams are out there as well. But this is council's effort, and this is the engineering standing committee's effort at helping improve the safety of our roads, and I support it wholeheartedly. Councillor Robinson, Councillor Reamer. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I actually want to compliment staff for getting out of the silo thinking and bringing together a group of a team together to take a look at this issue. I put my trust in a decision making that is based in evidence and not in Councillor Sikora's stories and anecdotal evidence of people speeding. Bigger hammers don't always work, and I think it's a combination of many different things, from road design to education and some enforcement. And we need to change behavior. So I'm actually pleased to see this coming together, and I look forward to seeing future reports and helping us make some really wise choices on how to use our dollars that will make our roads safer in that way. So thank you very much for bringing it forward.
Councillor Reamer.
Thank you very much. I echo the same thing as Councillor Robinson. We get so much more when we work together as a team than we do when we work in silos, and I fully support this particular recommendation. I just wanted to note as well, as I did at the engineering meeting, to add Operation Red Nose and the Rotary Club of Coquitlam as a community stakeholder for Traffic Safety Day on June 14th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers, motion is the staff recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Sikora is opposed. The motion carries.
Item 14.4 is an update on the City of Coquitlam's Bear Aware, Bear Smart program. Three-part recommendation is that Council support the enforcement strategy proposed by staff, including the issuance of tickets for violations. That Council support changes to the solid waste bylaw to remove identified bear activity area and apply consistent requirements for garbage and recycling set-out times and management of attractants. And 3, that the City Bear Aware Coordinator be referred to budget as a permanent full-time role for the City to be paid for through the solid waste utility.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Asmunsen. Weighing in on this topic of bears, Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, it's, you know, here we are again. You know, although this is going to budget this fall, and I'm delighted it is going to budget this fall. The fact is that, you know what, we're starting to get some, like in the last item, there's an added part-time employee or whatever it is to it. And here, a part-time employee going to full-time employee. This is before the budget. And the budget was just presented to us at 5%. You start adding these halves and 3/4 or whatever it is, our budget would be 7, 8, 9%. You know, and who's going to catch hell? Is the politicians are going to catch hell. You know, so it's nice to have these recommendations. You know, to me, I don't think the bears are active 12 months a year. I don't think they are. Maybe our bears are ones that don't sleep in November, December, January, and February. They're you know, they're house hunting. You know, or whatever it is.
At least one of them is.
Maybe house hunting, yeah, or whatever it is, you know. But I don't think that, you know, we need somebody on staff 12 months a year just because of the bears. I can see him at the peak time and 6 months a year, but I can't see it being a full-time job. So, you know, again, creations, another body, another office, another whole bunch of expenses, and that's the way it is. We keep climbing, you know. We don't seem to think about the taxpayers in this community.
Councillor Sikora, I do remind you, though, that question isn't on tonight's.
I know. Yeah.
That's in the budget process.
I understand that.
Okay, good.
I want to get home before tomorrow.
Yeah, we do. We're pushing against the clock with a 4-inch agenda, and we're going to have to get through this. Thank you very much, Councillor Sikora. Councillor Robinson.
I'll be quick, and I'm prepared to support this for discussion at our budget meeting. But again, I just want to highlight that there's a piece of downloading that's happening here, that this has been a position that has been funded by the province in the past. They're having budget cuts. I get it, but we're left sort of holding the bag, and it's pretty critical. So again, it's just another example, and I just think it needs to be flagged, and that we need to recognize that. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I support this, but I believe that referring it to the budget process is the right thing to do. I don't believe it's appropriate at this point to identify the source of funding. It says here to be paid for through the solid waste utility. If we charge this cost through the solid waste utility, we levy the cost of this citywide service, public safety service, on one band of our taxpayers and supporters. I think that decision as to where the funding comes from is for the budget process and not for tonight. And I would move to amend to strike out the words in point 3, to be paid for through the solid waste utility, so that it now reads, full-time role for the city to the fall budget process. That's my amendment.
That seems like a common sense amendment. Second, amended by Councillor Robinson. On the amendment, then, I'm going to have to switch to Councillor Reid. Are you on the amendment? Thank you. Councillor Reid. One moment, please. Just a second.
For goodness sakes, you can't turn me on anymore. Okay.
Go ahead.
It's not one area. I mean, if you're just saying that we only have one area for the bears?
No.
Oh, I
said we're protecting the whole city.
Well, we are, because
levying the cost on one strata of our taxpayers.
Oh, well, it's in the solid waste utility, so I think that's overall. And we have bears. You obviously haven't bumped into the Dawes Hill bear and I mean, we've got bears, and they're all named by area. So that's what I thought you were referring to. So that's fine.
By way of explanation on Councillor Nicholson's, the solid waste utility covers about half of Coquitlam, but it's spread out all over Coquitlam. It covers the single-family homes largely. Right. The multifamily dwellings usually have their own garbage pickup and don't pay into the solid waste utility because they're picked up by perhaps even the same contractor, but under contract to their strata corporation. So they wouldn't then be contributing to the Bear Aware, even though Bear Aware is certainly an issue for multifamily dwellings. So the motion is to remove where it's going to come out of from that, and it may well be a discussion that is best done at budget. Any other comments on that? Councillor Asmussen.
Well, thank you. It presently is funded out of part of it, out of solid waste right now, due to the fact the major issues of the Bear Aware coordinator in dealing is garbage, and a garbage bear is generally a dead bear, and how people put out their garbage in private residence. We don't deal with multifamily units in our garbage collection system at present. That's a private operation set out by their rules. We send them the Bear Aware stuff. Our coordinator works with them and does education in the schools. Bears do not go to sleep in the wintertime now. If they get habituated to garbage, they stay up almost all year round. And our Bear Aware coordinator needs to be here all year round. He just doesn't do bear stuff. He does education, other things, walking here. If you look at the number of houses and things that he has done, he's made a great impact. So it's presently funded out of solid waste. To say now was where it's already been funded from, to take it out. I think it belongs there because the major issue that he's dealing with is the attractions of garbage and garbage bears. So it's going to the budget, and I think if we just simply move it on to the budget, we have a broader discussion at that time to deal with this issue. And that council can make changes during the budget if they wish. But presently, that cost is coming from solid waste for part of the cost of a Bear Aware coordinator. Councillor Robinson's correct. The funding from the province has walked away. But as you've seen in the past, with some of the incidents we've had with bears in our area, that we need to educate people on how to properly place their garbage. That's why we changed some of our solid waste times and pickups. And we need to educate people. And the Bear Aware coordinator for the past 2 years has been doing a very good job in that nature of educating at schools, areas, residents, neighbors in that area. But I think that we pass this through. It's going to budget. At a budget, you can deny it, move it forward, change the funding, whatever you want. And I think we just simply leave it alone, move it forward as it states in the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. I will speak in favor of actually the amendment because we don't need to decide tonight where it's coming out of. We don't need to decide that we're doing it at all. Right now it says a permanent full-time role for the city to be paid through the solid waste utility. Those 7 or 8 words don't need to be there. I'll support it not being there. Let's keep in mind that restaurants, for example, the solid waste coming out of restaurants caused the death of bears this year. It caused our bear aware coordinator some of his time in managing those issues because restaurants don't pay into our solid waste utility. They have their garbage picked up by a contractor separately. So let's understand that the bear issue is ours. It's not necessarily just the single-family homes issue. It belongs to every resident of Coquitlam. And when we get to the main motion, I'll also speak to another issue, but I'll support the amendment at this point, which won't have any force in effect anyway. Any other speakers? Seeing none. The motion is on the amendment to remove 8 words. All in favor of the amendment? All opposed? Councillor Asmundson is opposed. The motion carries. The motion as amended. Now, it's a staff recommendation without the solid waste utility in it. And I will speak only to I hate cutbacks from the provincial level of government. In this case, this is a program that the province introduced. I think it's perfectly fine that they introduced it and then left it to us because the management of bears in our community is our responsibility. And the Bear Aware Coordinator, I think, plays a key role, and I'm perfectly fine with this one. I think this was an important service that we provide to our residents. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. See, there's a prime example of what's happening. See, we seem to find pockets of where something is going to be funded by because there's money in there. So we're going to find pockets of how we're going to hire this person and it's going to come from solid waste. Well, what has happened in the last 2 or 3 years to solid waste? People have been bummed to that with the rates that we're charging to get rid of their solid waste. And it just seems like it's going to go up again this year. I'm sure it will. I don't know by how many %, but it will. But here we're saying, well, it's not going to be too bad. We're going to take out of the solid waste. You know, I mean, so be it, you know. Let's load her up.
Councillor Sikora, this is on the motion as amended. We're not saying that anymore. We just removed those words.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion as amended? All opposed? The motion carries unanimously after much debate. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I'm going to be excusing myself on the next item. There is recommendation number 3 that refers to real estate transactions. My husband is a realtor. Although I have no direct pecuniary interest and there really is no conflict, I'm going to excuse myself for reasons pertaining to perception. Thank you.
Okay. That's fine. This is a matter of interpretation and perception, and Councillor Reamer has excused herself. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Item 15.5 relates to the Integrated Liquid Waste and Resource Management Plan. The 4-part recommendations that Council endorsed the specific municipal actions contained in the report from Metro Vancouver dated May 2010. That Council requests Metro Vancouver to remove Action 3.1.2 on the changes to sewerage cost allocation formula, that Metro Vancouver remove Action 1.1.7 on inspection and certification of private laterals at the time of real estate transactions from the plan, and 4, that staff be directed forward a copy of the report to Metro Vancouver, the Ministry of Environment, and to member municipalities.
Moved by Councillor Nicholson, seconded by Councillor Asmundson on liquid waste. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Just prior to proceeding to item 15.6, I will go...
Please invite Councillor Reamer back.
Item 15.6 relates to the Corporate Climate Action and Energy Management Progress Report. It's a 5-part recommendation in which Council's asked to direct staff to continue to implement energy management measures in the areas identified before you in order to reduce GHG emissions. That Council directs staff to develop a low-energy building policy that includes options for renewable energy and low-energy construction. The staff be directed to issue an RFP to explore options for energy service contracts that would be of benefit to Coquitlam's unique goals and needs. That Council refer the city's corporate energy manager position to the budget process later this fall as a permanent full-time role in the city, and that this be paid for by cost savings realized through the measures implemented now and in the future, and that Council support the resolution passed by the District of North Vancouver regarding the purchase price of carbon offsets, and that they be held in trust and applied to specific local projects at the municipal level.
Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. And this one is going to budget also, but I'd like to draw the attention.
If we could wait for a moment until we've had it moved. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were going to speak to it. Councillor Asmundson, seconded by Councillor Robinson. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You know, you see that this is going to budget again. Now, this is the third person that is coming on a payroll by the looks of it. Referred as city corporate, now in this case it's a manager that we're going to hire. Comes up a manager, how many secretaries, how many other things will have to happen to come aboard. So, you know, I mean, there's a third person that's coming aboard. You know, if this council votes above the 5% budget, you know, and they'll go on and on and on. So I'm just drawing your attention that we're going to refer this to budget, which is a great thing, but see what happens at budget time. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so you're speaking in favor of the referral to budget?
I don't mind it going to budget.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Asmundson.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. Most of this I like. The one part I do like is number 5, supporting the District of North Vancouver's right now, the Pacific Carbon Trust set with the provincial government. We had to pay, and we probably will pay carbon offsets. That money would go into that trust. What North Vancouver is saying that the carbon offsets that we would pay or they would pay would go into a fund for each municipality to go back into improving our reduction of greenhouse gas. And to me, if that's where the money should be going, if it's going to Pacific Carbon Trust, it's just like another tax on municipalities to fund projects that the province may see. And the other issue for the city of Coquitlam, we are going to try to meet all these greenhouse gas reduction limits, but we're one of the 4 fastest growing municipalities for the next 20 years. And for us to keep our greenhouse gas emissions at 2007 is a bigger challenge than other cities that are not having the same growth rate, adding this many new fire stations, community centers, all those other amenities that we will be growing in this city. So it's a greater challenge to us. I think that needs to be taken into consideration in this. But I'm prepared to move this forward. I just want to say that I hope that the province moves towards the District of North Vancouver's recommendation that the carbon offsets be held in trust for each municipality to go back into helping reduce their greenhouse gases emissions in that city. Thank you.
Ditto. Anybody else? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 15.7 relates to the environmental assessment review for the proposed Evergreen Line Rapid Transit Project. Our recommendations that Council forward the attached report, which speaks to the issues, concerns, and commentary provided in Attachment 1 to the British Columbia Environmental Assessment Office for response and clarification by the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure in support of that ministry's application for Environmental Assessment Certificate under the BC Environmental Assessment Act.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, second by Councillor Asmundson. Councillor Asmundson.
I just want to put a big thanks to all the staff that had a very short period of time to review the environmental assessment, and I just want to say a job well done to all those people through the summer that had to put in a lot of extra hours to get all our concerns and all the detailed work when you look at all the issues that they have pointed out to the province that need to be addressed for Coquitlam's. I just want to once again say thank you for all your extra hard work and a job well done.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. The motion is to submit the report. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 16 is the minutes of the Recreation, Sports and Culture Standing Committee meeting held Monday, July 26. Recommendations to receive those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, second by Councillor Asmundson. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I did vote against this prior to the summer at our committee meeting. However, I've... Oh, sorry, we're on the minutes, sorry.
It's been about 8 hours of continuous meetings here. We're getting close to the end. We're still on the approval of the minutes. Anyone else want to argue about the minutes? Seeing none. All in favor of the minutes? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
The item of business arising out of that committee's meeting involves the invasive plant management strategy and its implementation. Recommendations that Council direct staff to develop a draft bylaw for consideration that would require residents to remove giant hogweed from their property.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Robinson, second by Councillor Asmundson. Councillor Reamer may have something to say on this.
Thank you. I did vote against this prior to the summer, but actually during the summer I did do some research, and so I now know all about hogweed. I do have one concern, though, about the bylaw, and that is if we're bylawing our citizens to remove this plant, my concern is that some of them are going to try to remove it without using appropriate safety, because it is a very dangerous plant to remove. So what I'm wondering about, before we actually use the bylaw to enforce, what plan do we have to educate and to contact? Because right now there's only 9 private residents, as I understand, that have hogweed.
Ms. McKay? If we're just going to wait a moment, our Director of Parks and Recreation believes strongly in active Coquitlam and was a little too active herself. Is recovering from an injury. Oh, looks like painful. Okay, Ms. McKay.
And I'm happy to refer this item to Lanny England, our...
Okay. Just for that, I will probably come up with some question to ask you first. Okay. Mr. England.
All right, Your Worship. So that was a question, I believe, that was brought up at the committee meeting, the idea of the implications of asking residents or requiring them to remove a plant that potentially the staff is dangerous and could cause an injury. So staff did do a bit of research and spoke to other municipalities that have required the removal of this plant, and that hasn't come up. So it hasn't been tested in a sense to see if there would be an issue there. In theory, or on the surface, it would appear that there could be an issue there because we're requiring them to do that, but there's been no precedent set around that.
So the 9 residents that we have who have identified hogweed, they've been made aware that they've got it. Will they also be made aware once we pass this bylaw?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been done everything we can in terms of communication with these residents. We have printed materials we've developed. We've handed those out. We've spoken to them. We've recommended means of removing it, contractors that they could utilize.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in total agreement with getting rid of this or taking a stand against this this plant. But what concerns me is the penalty phase of the bylaw, and I know it hasn't been drafted yet, but I think that rather than trying to hold a hammer over somebody, it needs to be eradicated. And would it be possible then, when we're writing up this bylaw, that non-compliance just means that we have the authority then to go in and remove it ourselves and bill them for it?
Mr. England.
Your Worship, that's...
Oops. One moment, please.
Yeah, like, as you mentioned, that we haven't drafted anything yet, and that's certainly an option. And the one sample that we've seen in Saanich, that is exactly what they do when I've spoken to staff, that if it isn't removed, then staff go in, remove it, or contractors, and it's simply charged back to them.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good idea. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. it's a case of this bylaw, and I understand that this weed is a very dangerous weed, but, the enforcement is going to be some troublesome, How do you really enforce it throughout the whole city? How do you know maybe a resident doesn't even know he's got this weed in his yard? You can have inspectors going into their backyards to see if they have these weeds or not. How are you going to enforce it? How do you find out in every household, every yard, whether there's this weed or not?
It's taller than the house.
No. How do you find out? How do you go through 120 homes, 120,000 homes?
And these aren't little weeds. Go ahead, Mr. England.
Your Worship, the way we've actually been notified to date is simply residents let us know. We're not going to be inspecting homes to see if there's hogweed. If it's reported, then we would follow up with that. And that's what we've done to date.
We would invite residents who want to know what it looks like to look on the website. I remember we have a picture there. I can't remember where.
Sure, we have photos on the website. We have done ads in the early summer each year. There's a brochure. There's lots of information to educate residents in terms of how to identify that plant species.
But I didn't get my question was not answered. The fact that you're saying what it looks like and you're going to put on the website and a few other things. What I'm saying, how are you going to go into every property in this city to see whether they have hogweed or not? No, you're not. You don't have are we going to be asking for more bylaw enforcement officers to do that? What is it that we're doing?
It's more a situation where we're asked to check into a situation, or the resident themselves is concerned that it might be that plant, at which point we would go to that property. Again, that's the only situation that would lead us to going to a private residence. We're not trying to, inspect the whole city. It's simply on a request basis.
Thank you.
Now, this is an unusual looking plant. If you go to the website, you'll see a very large plant that is taller than me. And can cause serious burns for people that come in contact with it. And we have an advantage in Coquitlam in that for us, eradication is an option. It's a possibility. There are many communities around North America for whom eradication isn't even a distant hope. They're hoping to control it, and they spend, in many cases, I was in several jurisdictions this summer that have serious problems, and they have millions of dollars spent annually trying to control it, not hoping to eradicate it, but hoping that it won't get much worse. And that's simply, in Coquitlam, we have an option here. We believe that we can eradicate it from our community, and then with a bit of vigilance, keep it out. That's the best thing to do with invasive plants, because allowing them to grab a foothold can lead to enormous problems next year and for the next generation. We owe it to them to do what we can right now with all invasive plant species, but certainly the ones that are dangerous, we have to be a little bit more vigilant on. No other speakers. The motion is the staff recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Item 17 is the minutes of the Recreation, Sports and Culture Standing Committee meeting of Monday, September 13th, with a recommendation to receive the minutes.
Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Sikora. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
The item of business arising out of that committee's meeting for consideration tonight concerns the Forest Adventure Playground. Recommendations that Council approve option 1 and direct the staff take no further action on this issue.
Moved by everybody, seconded by everybody else. I'm going to say moved by the chair. Well, did you move it? I'm sorry, everybody yelled at the same time. Councillor Reamer moved it. Councillor Lynch seconded it. Any discussion? Hoping none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. A Forest Adventure Playground will not be happening in Mundy Park. The concept will now be referred to a master plan for our parks to see whether it fits anywhere and to what extent.
Item 18 concerns the prohibition on the sale of unsterilized rabbits and the necessary ticketing bylaw updates associated with that. Recommendations that Council give first 3 readings to the attached business license bylaw amending bylaw 4153, the prohibition bylaw prohibiting the sale of unsterilized rabbits, that council give first 3 readings to the attached bylaw, notice enforcement bylaw, amending bylaw, the ticketing bylaw. That staff be directed to submit the prohibition bylaw to the province for ministerial approval, and that staff be directed to institute a consultation process with affected businesses.
So moved. Second.
I believe moved by Councillor Reamer, moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. In between third and fourth reading, we're going to institute a consultation process with affected business, and we're asking for written submissions. I'm just wondering if any of those 7 businesses wish, can they also make any other representation? If they wish to do something additionally than over and above a written submission?
Well, it's up to
Mr. Dumont.
We're recommending just to take written submissions. Parties always have the ability to write counsel if they want to express their opinion. But right now, that's what we're asking for. If council wants to give another opportunity for consultation, now would be the time to give us direction.
Okay, so if they want to request to come and do a presentation, that's not going to be a problem.
I'll defer to the clerk there, but they would have the ability to apply to the clerk, I would believe, to come as a delegation.
Okay, all right.
And given the nature of the content of that request, it may or may not appear before a standing committee as opposed to all of council.
Okay, thank you.
I do ask council for restraint on our deliberations on this item. We're at about 20 minutes left in the regular council meeting, unless we extend. Councillor Reid.
Going to hop into this debate. I want you to know that I brought this forward wanting an outright ban on the sale of rabbits. This just complicates it. It wastes staff time. It gets fines. It gets everything else. So I will be opposing this because I want an outright ban on the sale of rabbits, which is the most humane thing to do. Thank you.
Well?
Don't.
Okay.
Don't.
Don't. I take my hat off to Councillor Sikora for his restraint. I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Reid is opposed. The motion carries. The sale of unaltered rabbits is now... Okay, anyway.
Next item, item 19, is a bylaw for fourth and final reading. It concerns highway dedication cancellation bylaw number 4124, and it pertains to an area adjacent to 2 King Edward Street. The recommendations that council give fourth and final reading to highway dedication cancellation bylaw 4124.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, second by Councillor McDonnell. All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Your Worship and members of council, items 20 and 21 have already been considered, and I will move on to item 22. Item 22 is an application for a structural change to a liquor primary license in addition of an outdoor patio to Woody's Pub on Brunette Avenue. Recommendations that council consider the application and provide staff with one of 2 alternatives. To either direct.
Okay, moved by Councillor Reamer, seconded by Councillor Asmussen, recommendation 1 only. Oh, sorry, Councillor Nicholson, my apologies. Councillor Reamer and Councillor Nicholson, recommendation 1. That was the motion. The motion was recommendation 1. Any discussion? Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I will not be supporting the recommendation. Here we go again. A pub that's asking for a little extension, like we had the keg. That was a great confusion to this council what they really wanted. The fact is, all around there's no residential. Very, very few. It's a pub. And, we're going to put them through that public consultation for what? Somebody across the street, that Miss Greek restaurant will say, yeah, they can have it. All the other businesses around there would say, yes. All the people around there's a bank and a couple others. So, there's some people living on back of Woody's, but I can't see us going through every time somebody applies for a liquor license in here. We somehow want to make the municipality a backward municipality and put them through all the hoops and give them all the added cost that may this that may happen to this business, so I cannot support it.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Generally, on principle, I actually would support this option. But and when I look at this closer, it's just an expansion, if I understand correctly, just an expansion of a current patio. So they're just looking for more seats. So from that perspective, for me, it's sort of like, well, we can go through this process, but the truth is they're going to be just expanding seats. Is it really going to have much impact? There are no residents. So I'm actually not going to support this one because I think this one starts to feel a little bit too bureaucratic.
Mr. Clerk.
I understand the objections being raised. I think just to provide a little understanding is that if we don't conduct it and conduct it at a price that is set, the province will generally direct the applicant to do it at their own cost, and it's sometimes takes a little bit longer or is more expensive than what we are able to provide ourselves because we do it as a matter of course, but certainly it is an option not to comment and leave it up to the province to decide their process.
This has been the challenge that Council has raised objections to in the past, that we only have two choices: call for public consultation or not comment at all and allow the province to call for public consultation if they choose and drag the business owner through the same process, and then we don't get the comment except through the province's public consultation process, which is a really unusual bit of public policy. So we're left with two options, and we've had this debate before, of course. The options are the third choice, which is approve it, which I think everyone on council may well be inclined to do, since it's simply an expansion, in fact, a non-smoking expansion of which is kind of neat. We should be permitted to approve it, but we're not permitted to approve it. We're only permitted to send them through a public consultation process and then approve it, or else not comment.
And if I understand our clerk, then it's possible that they could still have to go through this process. It's just that the province will direct them to do that, and that we actually might be doing them a favor by us asking them to do it because it might be cheaper, faster, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, we tried to get, because this is a long-standing establishment and everyone is very familiar with it and it's an expansion, we tried to get the province to provide us with more precise details on what they would be asking the applicant in anticipation of this question. Despite several missives to the province, we were unable to get information back. It's hard to say whether it would be cheaper for them. It just depends on what the province asks them to do and how much it costs for them to make a sign versus us and that sort of thing. So.
I'll support whatever it will take to get a non-smoking pub patio.
Well, I've been to this establishment, I admit it. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I do believe that this is a well-established place, and I believe that they would probably prefer to see this done locally as opposed to at another government level. I think it probably just adds a little bit more complication to matters when we send it to the provincial government. So I think these things are always better left done locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Thanks. We're just presupposing what the provincial government's going to say. This is a pub with they're good neighbors. They're good community neighbors. All they want to do is they're not adding a new patio. They just want to expand it a little bit. By us sending it to the province without commenting on it, it's just an expansion. Common sense should dictate that by us not commenting on it, we don't have an issue with it. I think it's just added bureaucracy, asking them to go out and at their expense, when I doubt that the province would require that. You know, we're so quick to jump on our own businesses there and impose rules and regulations on them that I think are just ridiculous. Common sense should prevail here. So I wouldn't support number one.
Thank you. And the reason I will support number one is I believe that this is a fine establishment. They've been in business for a long time, and I want them to get this as quickly as possible. I suspect this is the fastest and cheapest way to get that. It seems counterintuitive, though, that we're going to ask them to go out there and find out about whether or not and I do want some clarification on one point. Is this a second patio? My understanding is this is adjacent to the word is adjacent to the existing patio, but it is another patio. Not that it matters too much, but is that our understanding of this?
My understanding is that it's a second patio. It is adjacent in proximity, but it's being treated as a separate area, probably because of the non-smoking, smoking aspects of it.
And so I absolutely support them getting this. I think the easiest way to get that to happen is get them to jump through this hoop. The hoop is put there by the provincial government. We've already written to them asking for the change to the hoop, to more rational regulations. When we ask for common sense to prevail, the common sense has to prevail in the provincial regulations. We don't get to govern that. We only get to decide whether or not we comment. And the only way to comment and give our support to this application is to go through the public process, and I support it. Any other discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? Councillor Robinson, Councillor McDonnell, Councillor Sikora, Councillor Reid are opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you, Worship. The penultimate item, item 23, concerns the Emergency Operations Center's Emergency Command Vehicle Radio and Satellite Communications. Recommendations that Council receive the report for information.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, second by Councillor Nicholson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Nope. Councillor Reid.
Just a quick question. What happens to all the old equipment that's really old? Do we have any community groups that could make use of it?
I haven't had that conversation with our emergency program manager, but I'll certainly raise that issue and see whether there's anyone we can pass it on to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And that is carried. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. I was pleased to receive this report because I wasn't aware that we actually had an emergency command vehicle, and I now know. I did attend an event in Blue Mountain Park just before the summertime, and I saw the command vehicle that they own in New Westminster, which actually is used by many different organizations. I'm just wondering if that's the case with ours.
The fire chief may want to jump in on this one. I know that we allow other municipalities to use our emergency command vehicle.
Okay.
In an emergency situation. We have an agreement developed so that we can allow them to use it with the proviso, of course, that if we have our own emergency, we can recall the vehicle back immediately, but we do let other agencies use our emergency command vehicle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fire chief.
Through the chair. Yes, Fire Rescue operates the emergency command trailer stored at our town center fire station. Work in conjunction with RCMP. If they require it, we bring it out because we have the drivers for the vehicle with the tow vehicle. And we do rent it out to other municipalities so that on a cost recovery basis. But generally it's used for city operations, and we try not to let it get too far out of our jurisdiction. We do have an understanding when we rent it out that it is available for our use at a moment's notice. So if it's needed back in the city, we have the ability to return it immediately.
Thank you. I'm going to declare both those previous questions out of order because we'd already passed the motion. Mr. Clerk.
Final item on tonight's agenda concerns the Metro Vancouver Board and Brief. We have our representatives available to respond to questions and the staff recommendations to receive the brief for information.
Moved by Councillor Reamer, second by Councillor Asmussen. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
That's the last formal item on this evening's agenda.
Before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit more about Councillor Robinson. This summer, Councillor Robinson, of course, as she does, City of Coquitlam joined the cities of Port Coquitlam and Port Moody in the Tri-Cities Food Bank Challenge to raise food for the Share Food Bank. I had to put this item off till the end because the agenda was such that I'm not sure we were going to get through the important business. And this is, while it's important, it didn't need to be done tonight. But as Councillor Robinson does, she always challenges other cities, and then I'm the one who has to wear the shirt. The drive was a huge success. I'd like to thank all the citizens of Coquitlam and all the city employees for their generous support. Coquitlam residents and employees raised more than 3,000 pounds of food and almost $2,200 in support for the Sheriff Food Bank. And I want to thank each person who helped make this campaign a success. In particular, I'd like to thank, we've got Michael Price, Linda Gunther, and Leslie Guan of our Human Resources Department, who spearheaded the municipal campaign here at City Hall. The food bank is distributing a minimum of 800 food hampers every 2 weeks to Tri-Cities families. 45% of the recipients are children under 18. In absolute numbers, that's 3,600 children receiving food from the food bank, and of those, 1,110 are children under 6 years of age. The hampers are distributed each week at Como Lake United Church by volunteers from the congregations of Beacon Unitarian and Como Lake United. I want to acknowledge and thank them for their ongoing commitment, along with lots of volunteers in other capacities through various organizations. The food bank relies entirely on donations from the community to operate as the school year begins and many of us return to our routines and start new ones. I want to encourage everyone to purchase a can and a food item for the food bank every time you shop, or to, better still, contribute dollars, because the dollars go further than the food. It was truly inspiring to see the generous response, as we saw last summer and this summer, that our employees and residents gave to this important campaign. So let's continue to work together as a community to support Share Food Bank and the children and families in our community. You are making a difference in our lives. Together we can change the world a little bit. Thank you very much. And there you go. A motion to adjourn would be in order. And I said before we did that, I was going to do this little speech. I'm the chair. Okay, excuse me, I'm the chair. Councillor Asmundson, who seconded it? Seconded by Councillor McDonnell to adjourn. Any discussion on that?
Is this the second time we're adjourning this?
No, it's the first time the chair is adjourning it. Thank you very much. All in favor, opposed, carried. Are there any questions from the audience on tonight's agenda? Seeing none? Oh.
Good evening. Peter Endish, 1191 Parkland Drive in Coquitlam. I haven't had a chance to attend the town hall meeting, but I just briefly would like to congratulate you and the staff for what I have I didn't read in depth, but what appears to be a really progressive budget. I know it's extremely challenging to do that, and I want to congratulate you in doing so, especially the goals that you set forth, I think, are progressive and something to aspire to. I have some questions in regards to tonight's agenda. One of them is in regards to the GHG's emission reductions. I'm a little bit disheartened and not sure I understand the sort of vision where Coquitlam is going with this, because if you listen to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is comprised of thousands of scientists, they're saying that as a society we have to reduce by 40% by 2020 our emissions from the 1990 levels. And so if I look at what the province was mandated the city to do as a plan, it's 33% by 2020 from the 2007 levels. So it falls really short of that goal, what the scientific community of the world is telling us. And on top of that, Coquitlam is saying that they want exemption, they want a lower target. And it seems to me that what Coquitlam is aiming for is what in the industry is known as the intensity targets and not the absolute targets, meaning, well, we're growing, so we will still increase overall emissions, but there will be less per unit of whatever, maybe a house or whatever. So I'm kind of wondering what kind of science is this based on, that intensity targets will really, achieve the end goal of truly averting runaway climate change.
Okay. Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Worship. I can't provide much of an answer right here and now. The report had gone through the process, through the committee. We were trying to meet, or we did meet the provincial deadline for making amendments to our official community plan to set those targets in there. We had gone through a fairly lengthy process. I had engaged some some experienced consultants that quite know this area, and through some modeling on that, we had arrived at what we felt was an achievable. It's a push for a target. We got to work towards it, but it was achievable. And so we looked early in the process, what were the options, either shoot real high and likely miss it, or go for something that's a little more achievable. What I can offer, though, is if you'd like to follow up with staff, I can get the right staff that are more knowledgeable in this area to speak with you about this later this week.
I would certainly like that, but it always falls within the politicians to make the final call, and that's where the impact is really important. I have a second question, if I may, and that pertains to the tax exemptions that I've heard some of the groups present tonight. And I think, just like the council mayor was expressing, I too, my heart goes out to these organizations because I know just how hard it is to achieve the goals they have before them. But I have a few pertinent questions. One is, what kind of pressure this council is going to generate on the province? Because you obviously voice your displeasure with the province downloading this onto the city. So I'm wondering what kind of pressure you can and will try to do. And two, as the saying says, united we stand, divided we fall. I was wondering if there is, and if not, why wouldn't there be a plan to join forces with other cities, progressive cities such as Vancouver, City of Vancouver, to really make an impression on the province that, you know what, this is an issue that we will no longer tolerate, and as cities we want to see some changes done. So if you could provide some answers to that.
Well, understand that the province isn't asking us to pick up this. This is these groups that are coming to us and asking us for an exemption. And the challenge is that some communities may well be inclined to do this, and that, you're right, stand united. Our challenge before us is enormous. And there's several of us, for example, that are going to the Union of BC Municipalities Conference just to do that, which is to speak with one voice with other municipalities. I know I will do that. We have several meetings with ministers, informal meetings, dialogues, and every time I meet with a minister of the Crown, I say the same thing, that, look, we can't keep operating this way where you download stuff on us and we try to absorb the cost, because that doesn't work. We have to find a solution that no longer downloads to local government, or else gives us the tax room so that we will have the tools to be able to fund some of these things. But this isn't the provincial government coming to us. This is actually the groups that were before us today. So.
I understand. I was just going to say that I do appreciate, and I'm heartened to hear that. But it kind of seems to me also that you've been asking for so long, and nothing is really moving. So I like the example. For example, what Port Moody did when the Metro asked them, every city has to take an influx of people to accommodate coming into the region, but yet the TransLink wasn't accommodating them with the transit routes. So the city basically put their foot down and said, no, if you won't accommodate our transit, we will not accept the quotas for the influx of people. So I'm kind of wondering, you might want to start to think about a little bit of different strategies, because the old ones obviously are not we're working. And I'm not saying that, I know the challenge is enormous. I do appreciate that, don't get me wrong. And the last question I have is, for the tax exemptions, I heard that there's already some organizations that have tax exemptions, and so I'm wondering how that system works. Is it that if you ask for tax exemption, you keep getting it, or is there a process that reviews it, that it could kind of make it room for new applicants come in, and the whole thing gets reviewed periodically, or how does it work?
The process was tonight, for example. We reviewed the applications before us, which included last year's and any new ones, and make a decision every year. And then next month, the bylaw will come before us for approval of the exemptions that we have directed staff to include in the bylaw. Mr. Clerk.
Absolutely, Your Worship. And what we do is through the summer we write letters to previous recipients asking if anything has changed. There's been moments in the past, and last year's bylaw would be an example, where properties that were no longer being used for the reason that the exemption was originally granted were removed. The example maybe most well known to members of council was the SPCA property at one point was receiving a tax exemption, and then it ceased to operate as an SPCA. So we do review it on an ongoing basis. I think to tie it into your question just before that, the direction I heard from Council and what I heard in the resolution is that Council wants to have a more robust policy place on that, and will do so early in the new year with a sort of a more in-depth discussion on that front.
Okay, I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, and the final detail on that last one is that there are some of them that are statutory and they're automatic.
Absolutely. There are things in which Council does not have the discretion. It's driven by legislation.
There you go. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much for coming. Have a good evening.